Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and my co-host today for the 40k show is Mr. Tom, WTC expert Layton. Hey, Tom.
It's true. Hey, I'm retiring in just over a month.
More on that in a moment. I'm going to ask you how you are. Big shout out to everyone who joined us live, like Wargamer, who's just resubscribed for 38 months. Thank you, Wargamer. Big shout out to all of the podcast bros and broettes. That's right, I know there's a couple of broettes. 0.01% of you are a lady. And I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. Based on our download numbers, that means we have 2 women who listen, and we love you. So thanks for doing so.
I can confirm.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone on Patreon, and of course, thank you to everyone on YouTube. Twitch chat, though, I'm here for you. Darjan, Colonel Cabbage, Militant, Snowflake, Gitley. What is happening? Now, you will notice that we're missing our co-host, Nick. Tom, do you know who Nick is?
Yeah, he doesn't play Crusade, and he's moving into a new house, and therefore he is busy.
Yeah, he actually rang me a couple of days ago. He was so livid that they finally did release the campaign book. Livid that he said he might quit forever and ever. And
did it come with a free piece of terrain when they released it? Like you buy, like you get a magazine, you get like a free toy. In the bottom of that is just like a feculent normal, and that's why he was upset.
He'd have lost his whole shit if they'd have put free terrain in as well.
It's true. He's double dipping on upsetting Nicholas.
Yeah, and I imagine that's why no ladies are watching today, because Fit Nick isn't here.
It's true. However, I did try and grow a beard for him, but it's not quite worked. I don't have the salt and pepper going on, which means I'm not quite as attractive as he is. But I'll do my best.
Don't you?
I do, but that's not the same thing. Like Nikos is beyond gorgeous.
It's true. Fit Nick is a whole emote. So big up Twitch chat. Hope you're all well. Today, me and Tom are going to talk about the news, and then we are going to go and look at our first look through the Book of Rust. Yes, we know. Loads of people have already reviewed it out in the world. Yes, we know we don't get free copies of stuff, so we just have to review it in our own way. But we don't care. We're looking forward to it.
No one gets any copies because they gave them all to influencers, much like Fire Festival. So
which might bring us into the news section. It was a great segue, but I'm not letting you go. I need to know how you are. How you been? What's been going on?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I just had 2 fights on the road because people are awful. But apart from that, I finished work for Easter today. So I'm off for 3 weeks, which is going to be good. I'm hoping to get my guard done, my knights done, and my grey knights done, and my custodes done over the holidays. So hopefully I can get it done. Hold me accountable, guys, because otherwise I won't do it.
Well, that's very, very exciting. As I was telling you off air, I'm going to ask you about some hobby you may have done. I'm happy you finished school for a few weeks. I have just printed out the first 3-story WTC compliant piece of Tyrannid terrain. 3-story piece of Tyrannid terrain. So very happy about that. It looks muchos lovely. And so if you guys are keeping track, I think it's going to take me about another week to finish off a board of Tyrannid terrain. And then I'm going to be moving on to... Tom, you get to choose. Shall I do the Craft World or the Drukhari terrain next?
Do the Craft World terrain, please. Thank you.
Okay. It is L-shaped. Nilka, I'll put some pictures up at some point. I'll send you some pictures and I'll put some up in our Discord. That's where I'll put them. So it's super fun. So yeah, like it's going to look quite nice. I'm looking forward to it because it's a 3-story one and there's also some 2-story ones. But once you've done the first one, it's super boring because you're like, oh, that looks amazing. And then you're like, okay, I'll let the printers go for like the next 5 days doing the other 3 or whatever the fuck they've got to do. But really excited about that. Necron board printed and done, ready to be painted. And then Craft World. So before I get to Imperium, I should have Necron, Tyrannid, Craft World, Drukhari, and then so they're all going to be done before I have to get to an Imperium board, which I'm quite excited about. There's also a Tau board as well. I'm not 100% certain how I feel about the actual sculpts, but the actual designs, they're from I don't know if Hawkeye's in the chat. They're from Sacras Munda on My Mini Factory. I'll try and find the link for you later. But amazing. The designs are just 11 out of 10, so really happy about that. I'll happily receive unsolicited terrain picks.
Does that make it a solicited terrain pick then, if you've asked for the unsolicited ones?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a problem here.
Yeah, the board tour stream is going to happen when they're all painted. I'm going to make a series of videos of each of the boards when they're painted up. I know that sounds super lame, but I'm really excited about it, to be honest. And then my other bit of hobby news, Nick, is sorry, Tom, is I've I painted up. It's like my nan. She always got used to my name wrong.
You painted up your nan?
No, no. I cleaned out an airbrush yesterday for the first time.
You did, yeah. I saw the results. It was looking pretty good.
So looking forward to do some airbrushing on some terrain and trying to make some sweet ass terrain. So that's my hobby. Have you got any hobby done this week, or are you playing any games?
I painted some more of my Sentinels. They're almost done. I just need to do the plasma cannons. But I always get kind of I don't know about you guys, but I always kind of get a little bit not nervous, but apprehensive about painting weapons, right? Because it feels like there's not really a color scheme for them. So I'm just kind of like, well, maybe I'll do this bit brass, and it feels like you're mixing and matching a bit, especially on like a unit where you've only got like 2 of them, and so you just kind of experiment with both, and then you don't have to do them uniform across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Apart from that, we started our scrims with Scotland. I'm not going to talk about any. I'll talk about one result because we only had one come in. We had our Grey Knights play against Innis's Tyranids, and he underestimated the power of the Macarons and all his characters, and that started badly. But it was a great learning experience.
Was your Grey Knight player your first defender?
No. It was later on in the pairings. I can't remember exactly where it was because the pairings happened over a week ago now. But it was the purpose of these is obviously to practice, and as no one really plays Tyranids in our team, it was really, really useful for him to get that experience. And me telling you they move 54 inches and Ed Macaron jumping across the board and eating all of your characters is a different learning experience altogether. You'll definitely remember that now. So
you definitely will remember that.
Yeah. As far as I was concerned, perfect game because you've remembered something, you've learned something, and you're going to take that away with you. That's going really, really well. I played a game in the Scottish League as well. I played a Knights in Retrieval Mission. I can't push on you. Great. So it just comes back to secondaries, which was whatever, but it was fun. So yeah, I've had a decent week in hobby. Just not got too much painted. So.
Well, can we talk about the big news now? Because this is Tom. This is all you. What's your big news, really? Come on. You played a lot of 40k on TTS, but
so I've played. Let me just get my Steam library up so I can tell you exactly what I've done. So I have played over the last year since lockdown started. We can measure this in a year. I've played 168 hours, 0.2 of Tabletop Simulator, and that's the only way I can play 40k. Over the same period of time, I've played 206 hours, 0.1, of the original 2004 Rome Total War. If you've been following my Twitter feed, you will have seen the expedition of my faction leader, Parthia, who was spawned with the name Arses. He has been rampaging through Scythia and Turkey. And after he died, I tried to siege Pergamon, which had been taken by the lesbian rebels.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. Yeah, it's very interesting going on in my Total War. That was a hard one to crack, to be honest. But yeah, today they announced Rome Total War remastered. Right after I finished playing Command and Conquer Red Alert remastered, and Nikos finished playing Warcraft Reforged and hated it. So I played the original again.
He did. So
I am proper on the hype train. 29th of April, I will be retiring from tabletop wargaming to pursue a career in esports competitive Rome Total War remastered.
Oh, never catch on. It'll never catch on. That's what I think. Thanks, Gebs, for resubscribing.
I'm not going to relaunch Time Commanders, although I loved that show.
That was a great show.
I still go back and watch it. Like I was watching a video the other day about Belisarius, a Byzantine general, and I was like, wait a minute, didn't we do a Time Commanders on this? And they did, and it was the Battle of Dara 530.
I'm big into. Do you watch Historia Civilis?
I watch it occasionally, but it's not one of those channels where I watch everything they upload. You know what I mean?
I don't watch everything they upload, but yeah, I think some great, anyway, really, really good stuff. Can you airbrush known oil, painting the drop pods, getting right on my tits? Yeah,
I'm sure you can. Yeah.
But we don't do that here anymore, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
By the way, before we get to that, very quickly, I only just discovered. You know that metal paint I've been using for the last year? I didn't realize it was an airbrush paint.
Oh, did you?
So I've got all these Grey Knights that need manually painting with his airbrush paint on their bases, but I pre-painted and I was like, fuck, whatever. Okay, sorry, Rob. I was completely...
Nothing. I'm just saying we don't use washes anymore. We only use streaking grime. That's all we do.
I use
don't
washes.
do anything else ever.
That's why I'm very slow to paint my armies, because I don't use streaking ground. If you want to be quick at painting your armies and effective at painting your armies, use streaking ground.
Yeah,
which is why
that's all
I
we
don't
use. We don't use washes. Yeah. We do use washes in Ziploc bags. Yes, meatballs. No, we don't.
Oh, we also did one more bit of hobby, didn't we?
What did
now,
we
it's not 40k related.
It's not 4K related, you're right.
But we did have Dan unsupervised, bobbing for cartons filled with labels.
Well, let's not. It's not 40K related, but 12 of the Honest Wargamer show hosts, including Mr. Tom Layton, Nick and me, and a bunch of the other guys, have settled into a doubles or a teams of two. I don't know which one it is yet. Match up some Age of Sigmar inter-host tournament. It's very exciting. Dan has put the video out on Twitter. I think maybe Tom has a link to it or something like that that you guys can put in. So yeah, teams of two. Tom, we're not paired into the same team.
We're not.
No. My Nick is actually my partner in crime. So I'm feeling pretty good. Who are you paired up with? Dayton.
It's Leighton and Dayton. That is going to be mental because firstly we're on different time zones, but I might as well be on the same time zone because of the time I go to sleep.
Yep.
And secondly, the amount of energy that's just going to be coming out of that, where we just mercilessly bully our opponents into submission, is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be really.
We're going to be so toxic.
I think we should do the Age of Sigmar one, then flip it in in a month or so, and then do a 40k version.
Make Nathan play Admech.
40k. Yeah. Who is Owen's partner? Do you remember? It was.
I literally watched my name come out the hat, and then I was like, right, pause because I need to stream. So I haven't seen the rest of it.
I can't remember whose partners Owens, but it's someone. They're all good anyway. So more on that. I'm doing a proper show. Everyone's going to choose a list. That's not 40k related. Okay, on to 40k news. Twitch chat. Has anyone got any 40k news? Tom, we do have some. I guess the first unfortunate bit of news we have to bring up via the weekend is Piety and Pain.
Oh, we did. Yes, yeah. So for those of you who didn't notice, I saw a post come out from Element Games, and that's when the alarm bells first started ringing, saying that this is so. I believe Element Games is the biggest independent stockist in the country, but I could be wrong.
I think it is.
I think it is. They got 20 copies of Piety and Pain, to the point where they're not selling it online, they're only selling it in the store. So if anyone wants a hiked up price Piety and Pain as I drive to their store, which is only an hour away from me, I mean, bribes are available at Sassnag on Twitter. Just at me and I'll consider all bribes.
How early? Because knowing a lot of people are going to get there early, right? And I imagine it's one per person. Are you tempted to get there the night before and camp with a bunch of lads?
No, because I will be stabbed. Element Games is based in Stockport, and I don't rate my chances.
No,
not worth it. I'm not getting stabbed. You can
outfox the lads in Stockport. It's really easy. Just rattle some keys, and they'll think change has fallen down or something. It won't be too hard. I promise you.
I feel like also they'll probably be selling it. They're selling it to their own customers. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to come in, and I'll probably buy one. Say, can I have kind of a Piety and Pain, please? And I walk out, put it in the car, and I come in wearing a disguise.
Dude, there's going to be a queue.
Can I have a Piety and Pain, please?
Dude, there's going to be a queue. Like, honestly,
you missed the Four Lions gag, but that's okay. I'm very disappointed.
No, I got it. Rub it in your rapids, bro. Yeah.
Rub it in your rapids, bro.
I think it's more serious about how much like people are going to like want it, that there will be a big queue. Even the combat patrol is sold out.
I can't believe that as well, mate. That's so mental. That is. They need to make their own like Warhammer village just made of fact. They need to form a ghetto just to produce all these boxes. Because
the hot news coming from Nottingham, if I can be everyone around the world on Rob Symes, man on the scene. Like that's
just live in Warhammer basement. Remember,
live in Nottingham. Exactly. Is that apparently as of this week they've moved all of their production over to a brand new building. If you guys don't quite know, the production for Games Workshop exists on on the bottom floor of that main building that if you ever go to Warhammer World. So the top part, if you got the stairs, everything on top. Underneath it is all factory. So now all of the factory has moved to an entire building of its own. Huge room for expansion.
What are they going to do with the bottom bit?
I don't know. Like they'll probably just
all
turn
factory.
it into like More factory. They could turn it into more gaming space as well.
Or big
that would be
tournaments. Yeah.
bigger tournaments. That would be like an interesting thing for them to do. But ultimately, maybe just more office space. Who knows? But like they're going to up their production at some point. Whether or not that will pause production. I know a lot of people in the chat thinking that they're affecting. That they seem to be intentionally targeting FLGs, but I think that they just can't cope.
Produce it. Yeah.
Simply put, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, what was I going to say now? I had something really good. Oh, so when I lived in Oxford, there was a town that was like half an hour drive from me on the M4 called Newbury, right? And it was basically so many people there would just work at Vodafone. There's like one big Vodafone place, and loads of the population of Newbury just worked at Vodafone. Mm-hmm. I feel like Games Workshop should not stop until they hire the entire population of Nottingham at this point. Because the amount of stuff they're selling out, if they're even selling out Combat Patrol, that is insane to me. Because was that the box with the Necrons and the Space Marines with the shitty terrain that cost way too much?
Oh, oh god, what was that called? Who cares? That thing.
Yeah, but if you're selling that out, mate, holy shit, dude, you need to expand hard.
Well, there's a market for this. Winner stays on in the chat. He knows. He's a hype beast. He knows where we're at.
He is a hype beast, and he knows exactly all the products that he can purchase.
I want to see some Supreme / Space Marine crossover limited edition box sets. Imagine the money.
When it stays on, you're going to make a Blood Angels army, and it's going to have the Supreme logo across the front of it.
I'm in.
I know you're into Blood Angels, mate. You can't have me on this one. I know you're into it. I know you like them. You're going to do it, okay? I know you do, and you're going to make an army to match. So you're going to have 25 Supreme Aluminium dice to go with your Supreme army, and I'm going to play you with my 20 Idoneth Deepkin dice that you can't read with my Idoneth Deepkin army, okay? And that's how it's going to work. It doesn't matter it's cross-system, it'll look well cool.
Leadfoot, thank you for subscribing. Oh, thank you for donating 2 gift subscriptions. Thank you so much, Leadfoot. Big love. Big love. All right, okay, so let me read some of the things in the chat here. Sergeant Rolf says, Wargamer says the problem isn't these boxes selling out, but them locking new items into the boxes that they don't have enough circulation.
Yes.
Now, that isn't really a problem at the minute. I like Leadfoot's like...
Because no one plays Chaos Space Marines.
So he can get on the... So I could get on the leaderboard. Big love, Leadfoot. Right at the top there, top donator. So
rolled Scrivo. Yep.
Yeah, you've rolled Scrivo out. I guess the big kind of conversation is at the moment it doesn't really matter because tournaments aren't really happening. Australia, I recognise that you are having events in New Zealand and it's safe and it's okay. America, I'm not talking about you because obviously you're mental.
Well, also your event terrain looks weird and the winning list was illegal.
Are we ever not stopping talking about the fucking logo circles? I'm never stopping talking about it. Every time you mention America, I will come back to... Every time I look at an American tournament, I'm like, that looks fucking dumb. Every time. It doesn't look like 40k. It looks like logo bollocks.
Can we bring up a picture that I sent you of that stream?
Can we not just not paint our fucking minis? What's the point? Like playing on a logo board. Like, why am I here? What a ridiculous...
wasn't the worst part. So what I'm alluding to here, chat, is there was one of the streams that was doing the event, and they're meant to be like, they hype themselves up even though they're scammers and dog shit, and the person who runs it's awful. But they had a stream set up, right? So you know how we come the night before, we properly set up the stream, we have the overhead cameras, the side cameras, the swirly bits. We have a table boss sorted. This was literally, they had 3 of these webcams that I'm using right now, and they had them on fucking like gorilla pods that were clamped to the table. Now, the moment that like 400-pound Jerry leans over the top of that table and touches it, what happens to all the cameras?
I can't even shake my camera because it's like fucking fish has built it into like a...
Anyway, it's just fucking horrible. And then that, I'm not going to name and shame because I don't worth the fucking publicity. But then there was a second Twitch stream that was slightly better where the audio was just echoey as fuck and the camera was set up to a point where it looked like the fucking table was curving with the curvature of the earth.
Yeah.
This is why we're the best.
Medium to good is where we're at, but we can be better every time, and that's what we're about, baby.
Yeah. Rather than just saying, "Oh, we're going to do a professional broadcast," here's a webcam clamped to a desk.
Hey, that's how we all started out,
We
right?
do it properly.
That's how we
No, we
started
didn't.
out.
We never did that. We never clamped a webcam.
No, we never did
to a
that because
desk.
we're not children. I would quite like to see body cams. What are we saying about body cams? Yeah, cut to body cam.
So you can see him hiding that 6 in my ruin.
So Winner Stays On asks about the fun that we've got on. Unfortunately, no, we're not shooting a film. That's actually only 2 cameras.
Shooting a porn.
Yeah, that's 2 cameras. But yeah, that's what the camera fund is for. Sadly, are these Warhammer TV equipment prices? No, that's 2 cameras. They're called PTZ cameras, is what they are. We already have 2. We're going to raise 2 more. Yep. We need 4 for the WTC anyway. So that's the eventual goal. The actual eventual goal is to have 8, but let's not talk about that. If anyone wants to throw 10 quid in the pot, appreciate it.
If you want to bump it up to 7.2k, I mean, we can always go for that. But...
yeah, if anyone wants to just call me and say, "Hey Rob, love your content. Would love to buy you 4 cameras so you can make great quality content," I'm available at the drop of a fucking hat. Right, okay. Can you not breed the 2 you have that you have already? No.
Hermanista saying, I'm not sure about the body cams on the Wargames is a good idea. Yeah, but think about all the drama you get from tournaments. And if you have a camera on each of the players, think of how much more spicy drama and how many more perspectives you're going to get.
Ooh, spicy drama. That's beautiful. How we should do a GoFundMe and be like...
We're literally just going to make a soap out of 40k. And by a soap, I mean like EastEnders and Coronation Street, not a 40k like scented bath oils or whatever, because that would be incredibly ironic.
If anyone wants to, again, buy us like 4 cameras, no one will name them after you. And also, we promise you to bring you as many butt crack shots as possible at a tournament. A 40k tournament, I think we could get probably up to 100% butt crackage.
I don't think we can get 100%. We're not Magic the Gathering, but we can probably get up to about 80%.
Yeah, we could do really well. Right, no one needs that footage. It's too redacted. Right, okay. Bold talk after what happened at Southport. Yes, I know. Don't forget, Tom, last time we did or not last time, but one of the times we did 40k coverage, we broke up a marriage. So...
I mean, my shirt still says Homewrecker on the back of it, and I think the marriage is still going, but it was rocky.
All right, okay. So the Party in Pain thing is where I think we started this conversation. There's not enough of them. They sold out. They're limited stuff. Like, do you feel that this is going to be over the past year? Sorry, this is kind of a question to you in the Twitch chat. Over the past year, it hasn't really been very relevant. How do you feel now? The relevance of powerful gaming units being locked into special boxes where we might not see. Let's say. Like, you know what the question is.
I don't. Which units are locked into Party in Pain that we didn't already have access to? Because
you have to think about it for a moment. You have to think about it for a moment. Because I answered a question in the chat. Someone asked what happens in Southport. Basically, in Southport, while we were doing live coverage, we always do our infield reporter. Tom was infield reporter at the time. Unfortunately, one of the players at the Southport event was having an affair with a lady, and they were caught in the background footage because that man's wife was watching live.
It was very funny.
It was very, very funny. So imagine having an affair and then being like, "Hey, mistress, do you want to come to a 40K
camera shot, please?
Do you want to come to a 40K event with me? Like, this guy must be so fucking sexy. How is he like that good? You can't even get your wife to go, let alone your mistress." God,
that's a little bit fun. I was going to make a joke, but I don't think I can say it on air because we're partners now, and therefore we're shills. So we can't say anything about certain garden creatures. So I'm looking at the Party in Pain box now. In it, looks like you get an Immolator, you get a special assisted character, you get a squad of Retributors, and Mentor of Drakari, you get a Lilith Hesprax, you get some Scourges, some Witches, and a Venom. So the Witches, the Venom, and the Scourges you can get independently. The Immolator, I think you can get independently. The Retributors you definitely can, because I've tried to buy them. And the character, I think, is brand new. So what you're getting new is the 2 characters, effectively, right? You're already seeing a couple of people... I've seen a couple of people just sell the rest of the box parts online and say, I only wanted the characters. Which I think is, I don't know, man. Like, I was looking at buying this and then I just decided I'm probably not going to use Lilith. I've got enough characters to paint. I don't know anything about the Sisters characters, so I'm going to hold off. And with Sisters, you can probably convert quite nicely anyway. because there's a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, the Imperium range is very, very large. So I don't think we're locking anything specifically into here, although we have set that precedent with Obliterators and Venom Crawlers in the past, right? So I think this is more just an interest in the kind of box thing. I don't know if I'm buying this because I want these specific units, although there is always a case of that with the characters. Look, here's a good example. 1 second.
Oh, here we go.
This bad boy. Gazgul.
Yep. Gazgul.
Remember when I was trying to get my hands on him, but I didn't want to buy the whole box because I've got 40 fucking knobs back there and I don't want to buy any more.
Same.
Well, this took about a year to come out, right? I don't know how good Lilith is going to be. I'm going to be honest, I haven't had a proper look at the Drakari book yet. So I can't really comment on that, and I don't know what the sister's character does. So whether or not it's a case of locking powerful units behind the paywall of you've got to get all this stuff as well, I don't quite know. I'm also not a massive fan of a Lilith model anyway. So it's one of those where I don't think it's that important.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think it's that important until it I think the conversation isn't important this time, but I think the system is important because you end up at some 40k event and a new model comes out, let's say, or a character that's particularly integral to a very strong 40k build. Not that I think you can really build indestructible 40k armies like the one character maybe would shift the meta so much that it redefines it. But maybe. But I don't think that's actually the case. So I think that's fairly safe. But, you know, heavy intercessors, like getting into lists, only really available for certain people. So you can play those at events. That's significant. Not that they necessarily, again, tip the balance. But, you know...
There's a potential there.
There is a potential there. Yeah. So you're going to have a situation for a while, and maybe for an ongoing while, where we might see more of these box sets or more of these sort of splash releases, and you have tournament haves and have-nots.
Yeah, but that's always been an issue, though, right? I think if you're making the argument, I'm not saying you are, by the way, but I think if you are making the argument that, it's harder to get access to these because they're locked behind this, and you need a certain amount of money to be able to access that, that's always been an issue in 40k. When the books get released faster, that becomes a problem because you've got to be able to keep up with the matter if that's necessarily what you're interested in. If Forge World units are at the cream of the crop, like, for example, we saw in 8th edition the Caladius Grav Tank for Custodes. If you are living near Nottingham or you have the means with which to purchase those, including shipping, then again, you're going to be ahead of the curve. So there's always going to be this case of haves and have-nots based upon your personal situation. I don't think this is something new, but that doesn't mean I dismiss it as a problem either.
It's true. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I don't think there's been much other news really in the 40k ecosystem in the past week. I think a lot of people still generally reacting to the launch of the Drakari book, which we're going to be talking about next week, and of course the Book of Rust. Tom, I guess my question to you and the Twitch chat is, there was a lot of like, what the hell, how do we feel about the campaign book pre the launch? A lot of conversation from you, a lot of conversation from everyone really. Now we're a couple of days post the launch of it, and I know we're going to be going through it today. But formations are definitely a thing. We know that now.
No. They're armies of renown, Rob. There are no formations.
Sorry, armies of renown.
Yes,
oh, holy shit. Actually, there's loads of news. Did the reveal only happen on Saturday? Have I lost my freaking mind?
Yeah.
Oh my god, but we already reacted
Squiggos.
to Squiggos. Yeah, Pigoths.
By the way, if you say they don't belong in 40k, well, there's lots of weird shit that doesn't belong in 40k, and I like it. Give me more.
Clip.
Clip
and mark that.
Anyway.
All right, yeah, I've completely forgot about that. I guess like now, kind of being on this end of a campaign book that's going to have match play rules. We know one of several campaign books that are going to have match play rules. So formations and also oh god, what are they called? The Codex Supplements. How do you feel on the end of this now, the other side?
I hate supplements. I hate them. I have for a while, ever since it was the normal thing, mainly because they fucking ruined my Space Wolves book. I wanted my own Space Wolves book that had flavour and was interesting and was fun to run. And instead it's just a tack on for the Marines book, which that's my personal grievance. My second grievance is that I feel like it allows you to infinitely expand the game, which I feel is a problem. So let's say I want to learn what Marines do. let's say I'm going to WTC and there's a bunch of Marine armies that could potentially hit. I've now got to learn the biggest book in the game, and then I've got to learn, I believe it's 6 supplements.
Yep.
If we're excluding all the random White Dwarf ones that keep popping up everywhere based off who painted a cool army this week.
Yeah.
So it just expands that massively. And let's say, oh, well, it's only for Marines things because Marines are the flagship product. You want to, give people lots of different options of Marines. That's absolutely fine. I get that. And that's why I liked the Space Wars book, because it allowed me to play Marines, but it was fun and interesting and unique. And overpowered, which is my primary reason for liking it. The problem then becomes when you then expand that into all the other factions. And the fact that the Book of Rust has since been released, Wednesday's on 10 supplements for the chapters. There's my point. Now, if you limit that to Marines, it's not necessarily as much of a problem, but the problem is now they're clearly not limiting that to Marines. We've just seen that expanded out to Adeptus Mechanicus, to Imperial Knights, and to Drukhari. So this looks like something that's going to infinitely roll. So let's say you have 10 supplements per faction. I'm not saying you're going to do that because obviously Marines are the biggest faction and it's probably realistic. But if you're running a supplement for Cult of Strife, what stops you running one for Cabal of the Black Heart or just Cabals in general, and then Witch Cults and then Homunculus Covens? And then let's say that across to Asayani, the Craftworld Eldar. Let's have a Iandan one because they're mostly race. Let's have a Beal Town one because they're mostly made up of Guardians. Let's have an Ulfway one for all the Psykers that they have. Let's have a Simhan one for all the Jetbikes that they have. Now let's move that over to Harlequins. I don't fucking know their clowns, so who cares? Then let's move it over to Orcs, and they have Bad Moons who have all the teeth.
Stars.
And maybe you do that with Savage Orcs or whatever they're called now with the Squig Hoppers, right? And you expand all the supplements there. Suddenly you're looking at dozens and dozens of books. And while I think that's cool if you're just playing the game casually and just going down to the club and you're playing cool army versus cool army with your mates and they're both kind of decent but not overpowered or tournament worthy, I think that's great. But I think it's a problem when you start looking at it competitively because it's just far, far, far too much. And it means that you're forced to trust your opponent in a game where, let's face it, every fucking big event that comes out of North America is a cheating scandal.
we'll leave that to the side.
My point is, I struggle. You can't just trust your opponent. It's so hard to do that, which is why I think, and I was talking about this last week, we need to set a standard of where we draw the line competitively. Because I'm not necessarily against all these books, because having more options is never a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. I think the problem is that it creates an environment in competitive play where it is very easy to take advantage of it if you're a bad actor.
Okay, loads to unpack there, loads of points. I think. I think bad actors use everything as a bad actor. I think.
Oh yeah,
that's a bit of a boogeyman to hold up.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'd push back on that.
Okay.
The other thing is, so I agree about rules bloat. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 40k's got a lot of rules in it. I get that. I also think that a couple of things are true as well. Yes, we got 10 Space Marine supplements, but we don't have... There are a whole bunch of codexes that we don't have anymore because Blood Angels isn't its own codex. It's a supplement, right? So,
then you lose a lot of flavour, right?
I don't know, maybe, but maybe they just shouldn't have had so much flavour, truth be told. Ultimately, I understand that Blood Angels have been Blood Angels for 30 years, and it's an important part of kind of the whole background. Yeah. But going forward for the next 100 years, if they can make Iandan or Metallica or Riser or any of those kind of or Frozen Stars for Harlequins, if they can make any of those sub-factions as famous as
100%,
as Blood Angels. So I kind of I would like to see, if I'm honest, each sub-faction get its own supplement. Now, I know that's fucking hell, Rob, that's a lot of stuff. I get it, but I also think for world building, it's fun. Also, it means the game maybe lasts a bit longer. For instance, let's say you get your Mechanicum book now, but next year you get a couple of supplements for your Mechanicum book, and then you get your Harlequin books in October, and then it's not till the year after you get your couple of supplements for Harlequins. And you think, okay, it's given me loads of way to play with my toys. I talked about this earlier today, and I talk about this on the Age of Sigmar show a lot. In my opinion, this is probably the thing I advocate for the most, so I need to make my position clear.
Oh, of course.
So that whenever I talk about something, it makes sense. I want all of my minis to be as playable. I want as playable as possible all of the time. basically. Yeah. And I'd like my minis to be playable in different ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want my scatter bikes to be good at shooting, obviously, but maybe there's some sort of build that I can somehow make my scatter bikes do some sort of crazy fucking combat or something. I know that sounds a lot, but like, I know that's also a world that we probably would never get to, but it's just what I want, right? However, there's loads of shit in books. I think the data repository kind of conversation, I don't know what the right word for that is, but, you know, all of the data being true, and there being a central location for the data that is true, which is your point at the end. You're like, you can't trust your opponent, not because they're being nefarious, because they could just have made a mistake, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's about helping your opponent play with the game with them, right? There's a couple of things that I'd want to address there. Firstly, the point about bad actors are always going to, you know, there's always going to be things people can take advantage of. True, I agree with you. But I still feel like there are still ways that you can make it harder for them, right? And also make it easier for you to play the game with your opponent rather than you two both having to sift through books together to find out what the answer is, because the game includes a bunch of ridiculous double standards and clauses, right? Including fight first, fight last. Like, I know you have that issue in AOS as well. Secondly, at the point of using supplements for world building, I agree. I completely agree, actually. And I think that is a really good thing you can do with them. That doesn't mean that I think they're suitable for competitive play, and I don't think that you think that either, just to clarify. But also, if you're looking to do that for world building, that would make me optimistic that you're also interested in improving the ranges of the models for world. To get people interested in that, because I don't think people are avoiding playing factions because they don't have a supplement. I think people often avoid playing factions because the models look shit. When I first started 40k in 2008, I walked into the store of Warhammer World at the time, and I picked out my faction. And I picked out my faction not based off the rules or the existence of the rules or how many books they had. In fact, if they had more books, that'd probably be an off-putter for me. But based on how I liked the aesthetic of the range. And I feel like adding a supplement wouldn't have changed that for 14-year-old me. Nicer models would have if you want to make me interested in playing that range.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess one of those things, like, if we want to get real crunchy on just being subjective for a moment, like when you walk in and you saw those models, but they were in that color that you liked. Imagine if they'd been in a color that maybe you didn't like, for an example.
Possibly.
As an example, right? And that's one of the things. So actually, my trip into Mechanicum, which took me into 30k and then 40k, started out because of an orange Riser Mechanicum model. Yeah, and it was the orange. I never liked the red. I don't like the red. Like, whatever. Like, I get it. Like, people like the red, but I like the orange. I'm like, ooh.
Rusty.
Like, no, not even rusty. I'm just like, tasty orange.
That was a great segue. We missed it.
Ooh la la. It was a great segue. I should have gone through it. But so it was the color that really got to me, if that makes sense. So ultimately, like, and that's Riser, and I know about their sub-faction lore. I actually don't know much about some of the other sub-faction laws. I know Mars. I don't really know Metallica's.
Because that's a world from the Space Marine game.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So, like,
no.
My point is, like, that I actually think that it's better for us long term. However, I would obviously like to caveat the entire point that I don't want to buy 832 sub-faction supplements that cost £35 or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And again, as always said on this show, all rules should be free. They should be narrative books that they put out, and the rules should go into like a central database, and we shouldn't be paying for rules. So, never mind. All right, interesting talk about that. Good. So let's talk about these rules from the Book of Rust, the Rusty Books, and we'll talk about this. Now, I'd like to point out something for everyone watching at home, and that is that this book is actually, the campaign book's 35 quid RRP.
Or you can get it in the Warhammer app.
Or you can get it in the
for the small price of socialism. Great.
Yes. But who dares pay that price, Tom? Who dares indeed? Right?
I know. Mate, you're paying more than £1 per useful page here. In fact, you're paying more than £2 per useful page here.
It's pretty rough. Supplements give people that only play one or two armies new ways to play models they already own, and I can't see that as a downside. I don't think it is a downside. I think being able to play your models in loads of different ways is a positive, but I don't think we should have to pay for it. I think they should be encouraging us to use our models as much as possible, ultimately. I know it's expensive. All right, Tom, should we talk through them?
Yeah,
let's. Okay, so we're gonna start at. Oh, hold on. Let me get my photographic memory up right here. Would you like to start with Metallica and the Mechanicus cohort, or would you like to start with Death Guard? Your choice.
I'd rather start with the Mechanicus Defense cohort because that allows me to go through the memories in the order in which I
order.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of things to take away from here. There are Codex Supplements, so Metallica, and there are army formations. They are free. They have some limitations in the army, so you can't do X, but you gain access to bonus Y and Z. Simple as. And
so these are very similar to the detachments that you used to be able to take for what was it, Vigilus. So you used to be able to take, like, I remember building a Skyrunner army, so it was like one Farseer and then a bunch of Windrider jet bikes, and then you could spend a CP to make them all AP -1 or what have you. So it's very, very similar to that. So if you have an attachment, you can make it this, and then you give it that keyword, and that keyword allows you to use certain things on certain units.
Yeah. It's what Tom said. Follow along at home. Man reads book, stonks just gone up. Yes, all people who read book, the stonks are huge. Like,
we do not read anything; we just remember.
Does anyone? It's wildness. It was wildness that someone's like, can't wait to buy my House Raven rules for £35. None of us are doing it. Games Workshop are out of their freaking minds. Right. Okay. So restrictions. Let's talk about this. So this is a Mechanicus Defense
better have
cohort.
good lore, mate. It better have good lore, and then maybe I'll buy it.
Actually, I am going to pick up the first one. Like, no, hold on. Let me explain why. So I did buy the first or second Psychic Awakening. I definitely bought a Psychic Awakening, which was the Orc one. Yeah,
because the law was shit, and you reviewed it on the show and called it shit.
Yeah, the law was terrible. Like, it was like if I was the manager at that, like if that got submitted to me by the writer, I'd be like, no, you get I'd be like, formal written warning. Number 1 for this, go back, start again. So I'm going to read it because
the law in my dissertation was better than the law in the Psychic Awakening Saga of the Beast.
But I am going to pick this up. I'm going to pick this up and buy it because I would like to know what the standard of the law is going to be. I think the standard of the law in the Codex is much worse than 8th edition and previous editions of Warhammer 40,000, and I'll make that claim every time, unless someone goes, actually, Rob, they've tried harder, like in a year's time or something. But there's less lore in the codexes, so you're paying more money. More of the money you pay is paying for rules, and so I'm going to buy this one so that I can genuinely and honestly review the rules and see what the rules are like. Because not rules, sorry, narrative. And see what it's like. And if it's at Psychic Awakening level, I'll talk about it. But it might be at Broken Realms level, which is genuinely worthwhile. So
if it's great, we'll talk about it too, because we give fair and honest feedback.
Yeah. I'll be like, I liked it, I didn't, but I got to pay for it, which is always a fucking nightmare.
Bad. Yep.
Yeah, especially it's £35. Such a fucking bitch. Like, sometimes they're like, "Why don't I just say everything's great?" And like, Games Workshop give me loads of shit, and I'm like, imagine selling out for £35. What a fucking coward. Right, so
okay. We're content creators, mate. We need it. Okay.
Yeah. Look at our.
That's how it works.
Yeah. No paid for promotion here. Right, so restrictions. All units in your army must be Adeptus Mechanicus and be drawn from the same Forge World. Fine.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, your army cannot include Skitarii units. And that is actually loads of shit.
So do you want to give us a rundown of what the most common Skitarii units you see, Rob? Because I'm not entirely sure either, because I don't really play this.
Floaty boaties have the Skitarii keyword.
Not the floaty boaties. The entire army can't contain the floaty boaties.
Doggos.
Oh, fuck. Okay, well, this detachment's getting scrolled past already.
It basically is easier to say what you can take. You can take Castellan's Breachers, both the little track guys, Castellans, basically, is what you can take. Everything else has got the Skitarii keyword. So
it's a breacher and destroyer thing. Okay, it's a Cataphron brick.
With also the Castellans,
But no one uses those apart from the Polish, so no one cares.
Wait, hold on. Pete Pratt says, did you know that if you browse the Games Workshop web store looking at only Harlequins, they have the Psychic Awakening Blood and the Phoenix book listed for the army, even though there are no Harlequin rules in it? A friend bought it and had to send it back.
Classic. If you want to buy the Harlequins rules, they're coming a white dwarf, actually. I can't remember which one, because we don't have the issue numbers on the spine anymore, because They hate making things easy for you at this fucking company.
They do. Right, okay. So, your benefits, though. So those are your negatives. Let's talk about benefits. All units in your army gain the Mechanicus Defenses. They gain this keyword. You have access to Mechanicus Defense Core, Warlord Trait, Relic, and Stratagems. Cataphron Breachers, Destroyers and Servitors, and Castellan Robots, which are basically all you can take, units in your army gain the Extremis Sentinus Protocols ability. Yeah.
Okay, and that ability is 6 bullet points. It's like reading the fucking Dark Angels Codex, mate. That's what it's like.
Hey man, this is fun. Right, the unit never gains. The unit never gains a Forge World Dogma.
Okay.
Right, which is pretty big. But its inclusion in attachment does not prevent other units in that detachment, excluding other units with this ability, from gaining a dogma.
So this is important because you still get the Forge World keyword, you just don't get the dogma.
Yes.
So you can take Call and you can take Mars, and you still get rerolls. You just won't count as Mars.
Yes.
You just have the Mars keyword for the purposes of Call.
What? What? This unit gains the Extremist Sentinel keyword. Each time a range attack is allocated to a model in this unit, if this unit is either wholly within its controller's deployment zone, or if every model in the unit is within range of an objective marker, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1 in shooting.
So, it's nice. I don't know if we'll see it yet. I'd have to test it. And the reason why is because I was thinking about, what would I need to make Breachers spam good right now, right? Mm-hmm. I'd need a couple of things. Firstly, I need to make them more durable in melee, so I can push them forwards and not give a shit, right?
Yeah.
Or I would need some form of ignores line of sight shooting, or I would need some way of counteracting the -1 that you take for shooting through trees.
Yep.
One of those 3, maybe we're talking. This is decent because it makes it very, very hard to alpha on you. If you're playing a mission like Retrieval Mission, where you can just sit in your deployment zone and sit on 3 objectives, it's very, very hard to move you. Now, we could see this in WTC play specifically for that reason, in that you could sit back in your deployment zone with this and just say, well, you're not removing me. I'm going to take 6 points out of a 20 this game, and you're not going to do anything about it. And makes it a decent defender, especially when it's picking boards. So it's entirely possible that we see that, but I don't know if we'll see it in singles just yet. I'd have to test it out.
Okay, all right, yeah. We're not. I don't think we're asking for like comprehensive win loss, but you could build. What's important about this is you can build a. I mean, I think Breach Spam was already a thing to a degree, but you can build a slightly different army, which I'm pro. Whenever
it gives you other options. Great.
Yeah, I'm always pro that. That's what I'm gonna say. And yeah, Dude I Day, I still actually do have my 24 servitors or whatever I had, but they've all got plasma, which is right. But -1 damage from ranged is good. However, Tom, Twitch chat, I would argue that a lot of the damage that we see currently coming out of armies, not all of it is ranged. There's a significant portion that is close combat nowadays.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And the ability to push forwards is really, really good. I think one of the reasons why Drukhari is going to be very, very strong is because they have the ability to just lob little bits of cheap shit into the center of the board. Admech don't really do that, and this actually encourages you to break up a bit more, I think. And also, if you're throwing things into the middle of the board, well, I mean, you get -1 damage on the objective marker from range, but you're still probably going to get punched in the head. So, I don't know how I feel about it so far. No one wants that, no.
Yeah.
Although that said, they are surprisingly durable in melee. It's a pity that Vigilus went, because now you don't get 5+ invulnerable save, but yeah, it's not as good as 5+ invulnerable save, is it really?
No.
No.
Nah. Each time an enemy unit declares a charge against this unit, if the unit is not within engagement range of any enemy unit, so basically if it's not been charged, it can either hold steady or set to defend. If it holds steady, then until the end of the phase, any Overwatch attacks made by this model from this unit work on a 5+ as opposed to a 6. And if it sets to defend, you're -1 to hit, basically.
Hey, that works. Okay.
That's nice.
So you know how we were saying about something that counteracts the trees?
Yeah.
Well, that counteracts the trees because now you don't take the additional -1 penalty for the trees because you're in a second one.
I mean, that's good, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Again, it just makes it harder to push you out. Although that said, you're still only overwatching 1 unit, right? So
yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a big brick of fucking cataphrons, then
Oh yeah. Just don't charge a big brick of cataphrons, and you might be okay.
But yeah, so like, I mean, ultimately, like the -1 damage sounds good, but actually, I think when you start thinking it through, the fact that you can Overwatch on 5-ups or be -1 to hit if you get hit is probably a better deal. Like out of those abilities, and it's quite nice, and you get both. So like you're taking some weathering fire from range, and then you can also make yourself a little bit more survivable in close combat.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think bonuses, which is fun. So then you get the Warlord Trait, which is
This is garbage.
Okay, well, we'll skip it then.
And so, just for context, you get objectives secured within 6 inches for Mechanicus Defense cohort units. Well, if we look at Mechanicus Defense cohort units, you've got breaches and destroyers, which are going to be the main things, which already have objectives secured.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. You're not taking that ever.
Colonel Cabbage asked a great question in the chat. So how do we judge these? How about 1, it is narratively consistent. 2, is it usable without breaking the game? Actually, I guess narratively consistent. I guess it feels it is right now. It feels that kind of makes sense. And then, is it usable without breaking the game? I'd also say yes, and it definitely doesn't break the game.
Yeah.
I guess one of the key points is, does this give me more options to play my toys with? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So
it definitely does that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it does apply to robots, Pete. This also does apply to robots. So you could push, Tom. You could push.
Yeah, but I'm not. Well, mate, if you're relying upon fucking objective secured cataphrons.
No Castellans. The big boys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. So you want to walk them into the center of the board and take an objective when you want to be nowhere near. Nah.
And then they're also vehicles, right? So like
they are.
You can shoot into combat. You can Overwatch on 5-ups. It's not terrible.
The point is that if you're giving something objective secured, the point of doing that is to override something else that's on the objective. If you're pushing your Castellans in to override something else that's on the objective, guess what's happening to the Castellans next turn? They are getting tagged and they are useless.
No, because they're vehicles. They can shoot into combat.
Yeah, but they only shoot against what they're actually in combat with. They can't shoot out of the combat. So basically, you're saying, well, your Castellans have to shoot this crap unit that I'm going to lob in your dome.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. But I still think you could. Right, is the point. And then they also get a bunch of bonuses, like -1 to hit Castellans, or Castellans that fire Overwatch on 5-ups. I mean, there's a lot of fucking DACA coming out.
-1 damage, right?
And -1 damage from ranged.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, not terrible, not breaking the game.
It's a
but
fine
not terrible.
replacement for 5+ invulnerable save losses.
They're pretty fucking tanky, Castellans, man.
They are, man.
A lot of wounds. I personally hate them because they look awful. But
I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen them since Dark Reapers were a thing, and when Dark Reapers were a thing, they just got removed.
They're still a thing, I think. They're just not like they don't. I mean, they're better. And 9th edition's made them better because their vehicles shoot to combat. Like, that's better. Like, long story short, I think boards probably hurt them more than anything, I'd say, but whatever.
Yeah.
So then, but like Pete says, it's a lot of shots.
I'm not continuing this argument. It's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not an argument.
It's just not worth it. Oh, no, this discussion, man. Yeah.
It's just a deep, dark discussion. Right, okay. Stratagems that you get. You get Citation of Ruin, which is either 2 CP or 3 CP. Tom, do you want to tell us what this does?
We do have a relic as well, but it's a weapon relic, and therefore I hate it. So Citation of Ruin is use a stratagem in your shooting phase when an extremist sentinel unit from your army selects to shoot. And so at the end of a phase, models of that unit have the big guns and have a tire rule in the same manner as if they were vehicle models. So that means you can shoot while you're in combat, as we alluded to with the Castellans. In addition, they do not suffer -1 penalty to the hit rolls incurred when making attacks with heavy weapons against units they're in engagement range with, as described in big guns and a tire roll, because you -1 to hit with that. So if the unit has 4 or more models, it costs 3 CP. Otherwise, it costs 2 CP. I feel like most of the time you're probably going to end up using this on units with 4 or more models anyway, because if it's slower, you probably spend the 2 CP falling out of combat and then just shooting whatever you had in there anyway, so you have more flexibility with the shots, unless you're absolutely desperate. If you want to clear, then you can spend 2 CP, that's fine, but it's mainly going to be to help you chip away at close combat, right? So yeah, it's just not one of those things that make you really, really hard to charge. I think this is actually better for you than the 5+ Overwatch, because for 5+ Overwatch you can manipulate, right? With this you really can't. You're just going to get blapped next turn, and you're still going to have full efficiency in shots. The thing that's going to stop you from getting efficiency in shots is terrain. And so you're still able to control where they move, because if you charge, then if you fall out, you're not going to be able to shoot. But if you stay where you are, you're going to be able to shoot stuff that's in front of you, and then you can fire your shots off at other things if you want to, but you're still restricted by where you currently stood, so you can play around that as the other player.
Agreed. Okay, yeah, good points. Well made, thank you. Articulate. We won't talk about the relic blasters being talked about in the chat. Vengeful Sylvania says, I'm the only one here who loves robot models. I love the Ed 2009 vibe. Listen, some people bought smart cars. Like, there's no accounting for taste, is what I'm going to say. If you love them, you love them. That's all your choice. So pre-calibrated purge solution, 1 CP.
1 CP. So when you see 1 CP, there's always something useful here. It's normally like a toolbox stratagem, right? It's not like a core stratagem you're going to be using every game. It's something that's useful for specific things.
Yep.
So this one is uses in your shooting phase again. Imagine that for Radmech. When an extremist sentinel unit from your army that is wholly within your deployment zone, again, deployment zone theme, is selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack against an enemy unit that is wholly within the enemy deployment zone, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So you need a couple of things here. Firstly, you need the range to get over 24-inch no man's land in the center. Secondly, you need the line of sight, because the boards are like chocked with terrain, because we're basically playing Cities of Death at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you've got that, you're basically ignoring the trees, which is what I wanted to see in the first place. Big fan. So yeah, I quite like this, but it requires a little bit of setup. But for 1 CP, you can't knock it. I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So then next up is Bolster Defenses. This is 2 CP. This is your stratagem before the battle after certain deployment zones. That 1 area terrain or obstacles feature within your deployment zone. That terrain feature gains a light cover terrain trait. If it already has light cover terrain, add 2 to the save and throw roll instead of 1. And obviously invulnerable saves is not. This is pretty big.
Yeah, I feel like you're obviously not using it on things that already have light cover, because it's one of those things where a lot of the light cover I find is already giving you. You already have to stand behind it, and then you're not able to shoot. I think you end up using this on is using it on like trees or something. So then that give the trees, you then shoot through them, you ignore them with the pre-calibrated purge solution that we just talked about, and then you get +1 to your save when someone's firing back at you. Although it depends upon what you're shooting. If you're shooting something with a heavy AP, then you can do it. Otherwise, you probably you're then giving your opponent +1 to save as well. So you need to be careful with it, and it depends upon what you're running.
It's true, but I like it for, like, there isn't many stratagems that allow you to fuck with generally the terrain on the board as is, and I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
because
mate, I want to see one dude. Oh, sorry, you finish your point, and then I'll go.
I was wondering if we would see more terrain stratagems in the future, basically.
Yeah, I want to see one dude rock up and splurge all 12 CP on just making terrain. All of it. Straight
Let's
up.
go. That's all he does.
Yeah.
All right, I'm into that. So then, finally, Rad Bombardment, 3 CP.
Nicholas isn't here for this one, mate.
I know.
Now, when I see the words bombardment and 3 CP, I already put it in the bin, but we'll read it out anyway. So you use a stratagem in your command phase if a Mechanicus Defense Cohort Warlord, that's a mouthful, from your army is on the battlefield. Select 1 point of the battlefield and place a marker on that point. At the start of your next command phase, so your opponent has a turn to get out of the way. How good. Roll 1d6 for each unit within 6 inches of the center of that marker. So basically, it's a 12-inch diameter bubble. Roll 1d6 for each unit within center, blah, blah, blah. Subtracting 1 if that's a character. On a 4 to 5, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they suffer and on a 6+, that's the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds at the end of the what? On a 4 to 5, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. And on a 6+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. And until the end of the turn, we subtract 1 from a toughness characteristic. So you can't rely on this to ever remove the toughness characteristic. So it's effectively if you stand here, you will take D3 mortal wounds 50% of the time. Mm-hmm. I will just tank the D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
This is fucking terrible.
Yeah. It's a thing. Like, if you're in the right situation, you end up being able to, like, smash some mortal wounds in a bubble. Not bad.
Yeah, but it's not even a smash. It's next turn. So you say it, and then next turn, your opponent, then you roll.
Yeah, I guess so.
So it's not even so your opponent has a turn to get out of the way if they even really care.
It's true. Maybe it's useful for, like, hitting a back objective, like, that you've got some dudes on. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. The only time I've ever used all bombardment is to kill tower drones. But then if the tower drones have a turn to get out of the way, Well,
we are in trouble. All right, okay. So that's overall. That's the first supplement of 9th edition we've actually had a look at.
That's
Tom.
the first Army of Renown.
Sorry,
Supplement is a different thing.
sorry. It's the first Army of Renown.
Should we do all the
feel?
armies of
How
renown
renowned
first?
do you think it's going to be?
I think it's decent. I think there's a lot of things in here, and I don't think it's necessarily something that you. What do you lose if you take this? You lose the dogmas, right? So Grya, you don't take for the dogma anyway. You take that for a 4+ deny. Mars, I don't think you take that for the dogma anyway, but I could be wrong. You take that for call rerolls. And Styges, you do take that for the dogma, but is this better than Styges? Possibly, it could be, since they changed Styges. I think it is actually. Yeah,
But at least, so I think based on Colonel Cabbage's question earlier, I think it allows you to play your toys in a different way, and so it's a win for me. So win. All right, next up, Metallica. The Codex Supplement Metallica. So this is a supplement, a first.
Yeah.
Wait, is this the first non-Space Marine supplement as well?
There was one for Iandon a couple of years ago in 7th.
Okay, but since the Great Reset of 8th edition and then 9th edition, we haven't had any supplements. I don't think for anything other than the Space Marine.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I mean, that's pretty like a big deal, right? Farsight apparently maybe had one, but was that in 7th?
Farsight Enclaves. No. Oh no, that was Psychic Awakening.
That Psychic Awakening, I don't not really counting all those because they're all kind of expansions.
Whatever. It's fine. Anyway, whatever.
I mean, this is honestly probably the thing I'm most excited about for this expansion book. Like, it's cool. Like, you know, like if you're like a Rusty Boy fan, you're like, this is fun. Like, I'm gonna fuck with like Metallica and be this guy. Like, it's cool. Like, because you know, some people hardline Space Marines and I vibe that. Like, if that's your energy, I get it. But if you turn it up and you're like a hard boy, like little weird robot men, yeah, you're getting that same love. So I kind of am into it. I'm just going to say, so I'm excited about this.
Okay.
So the Codex for Metallica, you get Warlord Traits. So you've got three to choose from only?
You do by the looks of it, but they could be good, Rob. You only need one broken Warlord trait to make a good tree.
Or to make an entire army work. Let's be honest. That's true. Right, so you got Master Annihilator. In your command phase, select one friendly metallic unit within 6 inches of the Warlord. Until the start of your next command phase, add 6 inches to the range characteristic and +1 to the strength characteristic for all radium weapons models in that unit are equipped with. For purposes, rule radium weapons are any weapons whose profile includes radium, blah, blah, blah. Pistols, radium carbines, etc. And any relics. This is not cumulative with other rules that increase a weapon's range. Of course, talking about Big Fat Floaty Boy, who gives + to your range as well. So just a flat 6 inches. That's not bad.
I'm a big fan of +6 inches, mate. I'm a big fan. I used it a lot with Grey. No, I used it a lot of Grey Knights, didn't I? With my Recitation of Projection, right? And that's really, really good when you combine it with something that ignores line of sight. So you can maybe put that on a Scorpius or something. But the range is already very, very long. And range isn't an issue that I think I might really struggle with. I don't know about you, because you play them more than me. Do you often find that you're slightly out of range, or you wish you could project that kind of power?
It's also a hard keyword into some okay weapons, but the weapon profiles are fairly important, and what you're like. I mean, if this had been Cognis or something, I'd be like, oh, now we're fucking talking. But no, like it's radium stuff at the end of the day. So I think it's okay. Yeah. So it's fine. So that's not
it's contextual based on what you can put it on, right? And I don't know how much you have.
And it's not the whole army. It's not like any weapons is 6 inches.
True.
Yeah. Right, Ash Runner. Add 3 inches to the move characteristic and +1 strength of attacks characteristic of this Warlord. You can't really build a good Warlord, which is a bit of a shame. Can't really build no beat stick Mechanicum character. That's something I would like to see if we see some new models. I wouldn't mind seeing some Mechanicum Swole Boys.
Mate, I'm always down for Swole Boys. You know,
greased up Mechanicum lads. Then Radioactive Emanation, which is an aura. While a unit is within 6 inches of this Warlord, unless it is Metallica, subtract 1 from its toughness characteristic.
No.
This is not cumulative. So, yes.
Not
agreed.
a fan. No, it's useless.
No,
it dies anyway. No.
Yes. So I'm with you. I think there's nothing really that stands out there that's particularly like, wow.
No, not at all. Yeah.
All right, but that's not a problem because we can get into some stratagems.
Rob, can I ask you a quick question before we start the strategy?
Please.
Before we do the relics, sorry.
Yeah.
What is, if you were going to make a beat stick AdMech character, what character would you start with?
Well, I mean, there's literally like 3.
Yeah, I know. I know,
so...
but that's the problem.
Just the main one.
So just like a tech priest, right?
Yeah.
So you could put an Ash Runner on it, right? +1 strength and attacks, +3-inch movements. You running forward, okay? Like some big, like, centipede thing, right?
Yeah.
Then in relics, I'm going to ignore the Omni Sterilizer because although it has a funny name, it's also a weapon, and therefore I ignore it. You could also put on it the Bionics of Veneration, okay?
Yeah.
So as well as going an extra 3 inches, mate, and having a +1 to your strength and attacks, you could have a 4+ invulnerable save, and take -1 to be hit by enemy units within 3 inches.
You do heal D3 a turn, actually.
You do.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Like, but I mean, you'll be dead. But it's like, whatever. Like,
right, I'm trying to make an AdMech version of the dildo bike for custodians that refuses to die.
I
want to see how shit it is, but I want them to try. It's not about succeeding; it's about the effort put in. Okay,
that'd be a fun show between codexes. You know, just like taking like trying to make like the most boss characters, like build smash captains for each faction.
And then every week we should make them fight, and when we have one champion at the end,
I'm in. Let's do it. That's a show.
Yeah, we need to let Nick know now.
Yeah, Nick actually already knows somehow. He already knew what we were planning. So stratagems.
Check to see if it's returned to the chat again because he was in here earlier, the cheeky bastard.
Was he?
No, he hasn't. Yeah. He's still gone. He's still gone.
Right. So hopefully stratagems will bring this army back together, or the supplement, because nothing so far. So stratagems, you've got the Rad Saturation, which is 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of any phase. Select 1 Metallica Skitari Vanguard unit in your army until the end of the phase.
Hey, look, it's the same thing.
Rad Saturation. No, it's a Rad Saturation ability to 6 inches.
No, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is the Warlord Trait allowed to increase the range of Rad Stratagem weapons by 6 inches.
Yeah.
This is literally the same thing.
No. Rad, no. That does to your Rad weapons. Sorry, yeah. Rad Saturation is a minus toughness.
I am a moron if you did not read this properly. That's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. So, which is fine. There's a lot of ways to lower toughness in this army, which, like, it's a new... Games Workshop are like, we should lower the fucking toughness. It's like, well, yes. Also, strike last. Thought about that.
Are you reading Rad over Saturation 2CP?
Yeah.
Use a stratagem at the start of any phase, like 1 Metallica Skitari Vanguard unit in your army until the end of the phase. Increase the range of that unit's Rad Saturation ability to 6. Oh, that's -1 toughness. Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the Rad Saturation ability was.
Hey, it's really good, actually. Some people think it's rad.
Hey.
March to War is 1 CP. March to War is 1 CP, and it's use the stratagem in your movement phase when a Metallica unit from your army advances.
Your boss character's going fast, mate.
Yeah. Do not make an advance roll instead until the end of the phase. Add 6 inches to the move characteristic of that unit. Now, that isn't bad, to be honest, because can I say that this, like we talked about making toys more valuable or more viable, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, 100%. I did run a load of Sindonian Dragoons. Now, they're not very good in 9th edition.
Okay. Are they the stabby chicken walkers?
Stabby chicken walkers, right? But having plus add 6 inches to the move characteristic of that unit is quite nice. Yeah? I'm just going to put that out there. Like, there's an option there.
You have anything that can advance and charge her, mate?
Yeah. No, they don't have no advance and charge. Like,
well, also, you can put this on the doggos and make them advance really quick, right?
Yeah, you could.
You can very consistently push up your floaty babies.
I get it. The doggos are better than the chicken walkers. Yeah. Like, I don't know why they decided to fuck me, but they did. Right?
It's okay. It's fine. Everything comes around, Rob. There's a reason why I sell nothing, because it's going to be good sooner or later. One day, I'm going to use those 5 Storm Ravens and no one's going to stop me.
Yeah. You're gonna smash face. It's gonna be great. And also, me and Leadfoot, he owns 12 of them, so we're in the same place.
Poor bastard.
However, it gives us more options, right? Which is nice, making everything fast. So that's a good stratagem. March to War, good stratagem. Purity of the Machine, 1 CP or 2 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Metallica unit from your army is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase when a Metallica unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to hit and roll and to wound. This unit, if this unit is a vehicle, this stratagem costs 2 CP, otherwise it costs 1 CP. It's quite nice.
Here's a way of ignoring that -1 to hit through trees. The problem is you're now taking yourself as Metallica rather than Mars, which means you're losing your rerolls, which is a problem. But
yeah,
you know,
it's still nice,
fine.
though, right?
It's fine, I guess. Yeah, it's nice. It's just what you lose compared to other things you take. Right, that doesn't mean that it isn't good on its own. If you want to run Metallica, you could do this, and it's fine.
Yeah. So then next up, 1 CP, Order in Anarchy. Use this stratagem in your command phase, select 1 Metallica unit from your army until the end of the turn. Each time an attack made by a model in that unit targets an enemy unit within 12 inches, you can add +1 to the hit roll.
Yeah, just don't combo this with Purity of the Machine and fuck yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Lose your own modifier.
But +1 to hit. +1 to hit.
Yeah, +1 to hit's really nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, it's good. Extinction Order is the other one, right? Which is an epic deed stratagem. So we're moving on from a battle tactic ones. You use a stratagem in your shooting phase and select 1 area terrain feature visible to your Metallica Warlord until the end of the phase. Each time an attack made by a model in a friendly Metallica unit that is within 6 inches of your Metallica Warlord targets an enemy unit within that terrain feature, get +1 to wound.
Which is like, so 4 CP, but +1 to hit, +1 to wound for a unit is significant.
Yes, the +1 to hit will counteract the probably -1, but you're going to get for shooting through the trees.
Yeah.
But you only need 1 model in there, because remember, you roll your to wound rolls before you actually kill any models.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, it's expensive.
The enemy unit has to be wholly within that area terrain feature, though. It's expensive, and it's very situational.
Yeah, it is, but it is there, is the point.
It's there if your opponent's a dobber, yes.
Yeah, Knight of the Iron Cog, 1 CP. Use this stratagem before the battle when you are mustering your army. Select 1 House Raven unit from your army. That unit gains the Canticles of the Omnissiah ability.
I feel like we've seen this before, mate. We've seen this before.
Yeah, we have.
It's literally the same strategy.
And is considered to have the Adeptus Mechanicus keyword for the purposes of this ability. The inclusion of this unit in your army does not prevent Adeptus Mechanicus in your army using any rules.
They're taking it out of the Admech Codex when it drops. Because the Admech Codex currently has a stratagem that allows you to treat a knight as being Adeptus Mechanicus.
Are they taking it out? No, I think that this will just be in the Mechanicus one as well. Maybe.
Why would it be one when you could just use the other one? Maybe it's slightly cheaper. Maybe the other one's going to be 2 CP, because this one specifies you have to be Metallica and Raven. Yeah. Whereas the Admech one is literally everything.
Or maybe they'll have like Riser will be Riser and another of the Knight households. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll buddy up a Knight household with a Forge.
That's why. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hermanus just read the book. Good for Hermanista. Good job.
Yeah.
Omniscience is exaltation.
Oh no, hold on. Can we go back to that? Because that's actually probably quite a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you basically, because you have to pay 1 CP at the moment per turn to affect a knight by the Canticles. So if I want Canticles to affect my knight, I have to pay 1 CP. So basically it's gone from the cost of 5 CP to the cost of 1 CP. So really it's like a net gain. And it's not something you have to remember or anything like that, which is genuinely really, really good. Like, very strong. And putting a knight in your army is, we talked about making like a big smash character running up the board. Man, that's what a knight can be, if you really want it to be. Do you know what I mean? I don't think maybe putting knights inside your mechanical forces is the pro move at the moment. But it's still there, right?
Yeah, and maybe if you're taking 1 big knight and you want to get value by getting Canticles on it for the entire game, House Raven's the one to go for, because it's historically we've known that 1 big House Raven knight has been quite effective. Not necessarily recently, but it has been a thing in the past where if you want to go for that 1 big knight, that is the direction you go in, right? I don't know how much value you get out of it, just because as you change your Canticles, a lot of the time it doesn't really benefit the knight. Mainly you just be doing it to get like reroll 1s to hit on the knight, but it's good value. It's pretty. I mean, if you're gonna do it, it's a cheap way of doing it, right? Especially if you just have that 1 knight.
Yeah. I think reroll 1s hit obviously on a big knight is pretty big for that turn where they go crazy. Yeah. Okay, so Omnissiah's Exaltation. After you, Thomas.
Oh, so Omnissiah's Exaltation. Once I've just got it back up. There we go. So this is a 1 CP stratagem, so immediately it looks like it's probably going to be a toolbox. So use this stratagem in the morale phase. It's a toolbox. There we go. Now we already know. When an enemy unit that is within 6 inches of a Metallica unit from your army is selected to take a morale test, until the end of a phase, subtracts 1 from the combat attrition tests taken for that enemy unit. So basically, it just makes more shit run away in the morale
Attrition phase.
phase. Yeah,
So
if
there's
they are
actually
within 6 inches of a Metallica unit.
So in the Drukhari version of this, there's actually a really good way where you can make stuff run away in attrition on 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. Because effectively what this does, Tom, is if the unit's below half strength, the unit will be running away on 1, 2, 3s.
Yeah, but it's still one of those where you lose one model and then you lose two-thirds of the unit, but you'll still have models left, and that's most of the time all you need. 9th edition is about wiping things, because you realistically only need like 1 or 2 little bits and bobs on the objective. And if you have that, you have that. So
it's also situational. It's also situational as fuck.
So here's my thing. Morale has changed, and I kind of like how morale has changed. The problem is, although it is, if you were just taking a game where you were just trying to remove as many of your opponent's little pieces as possible, but it would be great. The problem is, within the context of 9th edition, losing most of your unit doesn't actually have a massive impact, because the game is entirely about handshaking traits. I am lobbing things into the middle, aware that they are going to die, and if a couple of models live, that is a bonus. And therefore, if I am having to try and remove those units that I've lobbed into the center, so let's say Tom 1 lobs a unit in, and Tom 2 needs to remove it. Tom 2 can't rely on the morale phase, even if it's 1 to 4s on combat attrition. I remove you. I need to kill all of you. Otherwise, you're still going to be on that objective. You're going to be denying me primaries in my turn, and you're going to be scoring primaries in your turn. So a minimum of a 10-point swing, most likely.
Good points, and I agree with you. I do feel like there maybe is a conversation about potentially tagging units, doing some damage, and trying to force some morale checks, and then for attrition tests.
Yeah.
But I don't think inside the Mechanicum Force that's the point, and I think you make a good point there.
Yeah.
Last up then, because nothing's really stood out apart from maybe the Knight stratagem, is Blaring Glory, which is 1 CP. Use this stratagem in the fight phase or in your opponent's shooting phase. Select one enemy unit that's within 6 inches of a metallic unit from your army. Till the end of that phase, your opponent cannot re-roll any dice rolls made for attacks by that model in that enemy unit.
So, here's a good comparison. You take a Metallica detachment of Cataphren Destroyers. Now, obviously, you're using the re-rolls, right? You then give it the Mechanicus Defense cohort. Whereby you're overwatching on 5s. You've got that other stratagem, but there was a defensive stratagem, wasn't there?
It's set to defend.
Melee. Yeah, set to defend. And then you plot this on it, whereby you can't reroll to hit them, right? And also you can just shoot them off in your own shooting phase as well with your Cataphren Destroyers whilst you're in combat. It makes you really hard to charge, man. Your damage output isn't quite as strong, but do you really need the rerolls if you're only getting line of sight on certain things anyway?
No.
You could make a big bricky Cataphren Destroyer army and just walk it up the board and say, I am unchargeable.
Which is cool, right?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I think it could be fun. We might have to give that a go.
So overall,
it might be shit, but it's worth voicing.
I mean, that's basically how it all works. Exactly. Overall, Twitch chat and also Tom, having this be the first supplement that we looked at, and also the first thing. How do you kind of feel about it?
Pretty good. B+, I think. It's one of those where it's not like there was a quota of you need to take this many units from this force organization tree chart, whatever, and this many units from this one. And if you do, you get a bonus, and therefore you end up with completely unintended effects like water spiders hopping around, being unkillable, wounding everything on 2s, hitting on 2s, like you did in 7th. In this one, it's very much controlled, much like it was with the previous ones in Vigilus. I'm still not a fan of the bloat, but it's not game-breaking or too difficult to digest so far. But we'll have to see with the Knights one. Okay,
all right. I think the supplement was fine. I think the supplement didn't add a lot of flavour to the army, if I'm honest. I didn't feel like it did a lot. I don't know if you thought it did a lot, but I don't feel like it did a lot. Which maybe for a supplement is what we want. We don't want it to be. I don't think it really expanded how you played the army particularly interestingly, which I think is a bit of a shame. And so I rate it as a meh, and just some more random stuff. But maybe you'll see some genuine play. Who knows in the future?
I kind of like it. It gives you some more options. I'm all right with it. Not too bad.
All right, next up. Next up is the Terminus Est Assault Force. So this is the Death Guard special detachment. or whatever they're called, Army of Renown. And now the restrictions are your army cannot include any units with the vehicle keyword. Pretty big.
Unfortunate flesh mowers.
Yeah, unfortunate for those guys.
But at least hopefully that'll make Jim stop taking fucking defilers. That might be useful.
More defilers all the time. Yeah.
Defile my eyes with that shit. Holy shit.
Your army cannot include Mortarion.
Again, another trap.
All units in your army must be Death Guard, and if they're from a plague company, they must be drawn from Harbinger's subfaction.
I don't know, dude.
Before we go any further, I just want to TLDR this. In love with all of this stuff. Yeah, I just want to point this out. Right? I think this is big stonks and also super fun. JJ number 10, do we think Tyranids will return with these books? Yes, they will. Definitely. Big stonks also on the Tyranids. Also, JJ, I'm printing out a great Tyranid board. You'll love it. I can't wait for you to come over and see. Right, so then you've got to go from Harbingers, and I'm vibe on Harbingers, Tom.
I know,
Not that anyone takes it, but it's cool. And if your army includes Typhus, why wouldn't it? He's so hyper efficient.
Because you can't legally include him in the army. That's why it wouldn't.
Yeah, but we will. And then if Typhus is your warlord, he gains the Harbinger of Death warlord trait in addition to any other warlord trait he knows. So an additional warlord trait on top of Typhus, again, like versus his, like in addition to his other one. So big stonks there because so you're already running Harbingers. Here's a way to make Harbingers maybe better or different, at least. Benefits, though. All units in your army gain the Terminus S Assault Force word. You have access to the Terminus S Assault Force, Warlord Traits, blah, blah, blah. Death Guard Psychers can do the Festus Discipline, and units in your army gain the Outbreak Assault ability described below.
So, there's already a problem with this in that because you have to take Harbingers, I'm not saying Harbingers are bad, but the typical Death Guard build at the minute is you take 2 bricks that are based around the Mortarian's Animal Stratagem and the Noxious Blightbringer. And what that effectively means is, I won't go into the details, but you basically take 2 little bricks, walk kind of down the sides, off-center of the board, and they're basically unchargeable. If you're taking an army of Harbingers, you are reducing that down to 1 brick, which completely invalidates the entire identity of the army, and it makes it harder for you to push the corners. So it basically means you have to run an entirely different build if you're going to make it work competitively.
Yeah, but you can try and build something, which was...
You can, not saying you can't, yeah.
Right, okay, so let's talk about the benefits. We talked about that. So the Outbreak Assault ability, when placing Terminus S Assault Force units into a strategic reserve, do not use the table in the Warhammer 40,000 core book to determine how many command points it costs. Instead, the command points required to place an Assault Force unit in strategic reserve are shown in the table below. Yeah?
It costs more.
It costs more.
That's a benefit, apparently.
Apparently that's a benefit. However, if basically a Bubonica Astartes unit placed into strategic reserves in the reinforcement step, one of your movement phases, instead of running from the table edge, basically it can deep strike. So instead of doing it as we know, you can deep strike it. So it does give you an option to deep strike Plague Marines.
Yes, yeah, and
basically.
Possessed, the chat is going for, yeah.
And
which is cool.
Possessed, I guess. Yes. So that's one. Now, I guess that's okay, but really people are already very narratively painting a lot of Death Shroud Terminators who obviously have a teleport.
Already deep striking, yeah.
Already deep striking.
Yeah. But it is something unique you can do. The Death Shroud Terminators are built for the list that I previously alluded to, whereas a lot of the stuff I think people could be building right now would work with this specifically, right? But Death Shrouds aren't necessarily for an army like this.
No. But so it allows you to kind of do that, and then maybe have, I don't know, you could have some deep striking Plague Marines, and they're fairly scary. Like making the charge is going to be the tough part, but they're tanky, right? It allows you to drop Plague Marines down and then drop a character with them as well, because like they'll have so you can also drop characters, which is I guess something. So if you wanted to drop, I don't know, a Plague Surgeon or a Fight Last guy next to your Death Shroud, this gives you the option to do that. So then you can drop them down. If you don't make the charge, you're like, cool, I'm on this part of the board, but then it's hard to cover the board anyway. Right, so the Warlord trait, the Harbinger of Death.
That's a good name. Yep.
It's a good one. I mean, I feel like sometimes they shoot their load. They're like, you're not going to give that to anyone else now in the whole game.
Yeah.
While an
I think the
enemy
Nightbringer has something like that, no? But that's
is
okay.
it called Harbinger of Death as well?
Probably, yeah. Necrons that have very creative names.
Well, anyway, so while an enemy model with a leadership characteristic of 7 or less is within 3 inches of this warlord, the model's unit cannot make use of the objective secured or any similar abilities.
Wait a minute. So if I have a unit of dudes that are leadership 7 and then the sergeant is leadership 8, so long as there's some dude in there with leadership 7, my entire unit loses objective secured.
While an enemy model with a leadership
Yeah,
of 7.
well,
because the whole unit counts as having leadership 8 because of the sergeant.
Or does it? Or do you not just take the leadership test on the sergeant?
Good argument. To be FAQ'd.
Chat, go.
Chat, go.
Find out for
us. Right. The model cannot perform any actions.
It's okay, Scramblers was already fucked. Carry on.
But still, the model unit cannot make use of objectives secured, I think is actually pretty key. So, interesting. In addition, while one or more enemy models are in range of this aura, add 1 to this warlord's attack characteristic, which on Typhus is pretty good because he's pretty baller in combat. And don't forget, this is just a free additional warlord trait that you're sticking on top of Typhus. So, I'm not gonna turn my nose up at free warlord trait, right?
No, exactly. Especially if you're taking Typhus anyway, who's great value if you are legally allowed to take him in a detachment. I was just typing something to the chat, basically asking if the entire unit counts as the leadership of the sergeant for the purposes of morale checks, or if it counts as it permanently for the entire phase. We'll find out that one later. I guess it's not massively important because I don't think it's something that's massively going to make a huge difference. Although it is cool. Although you'd probably hope that if you're within 3 inches of something, it probably dies anyway. It's just if you want to use some stratagems to expand that and make it 9 inches and then just push people off objectives just by standing there.
Right, okay. I mean, I don't mind that. I think it's free, it's nice, it's not overpowered. Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's flavorful is what it is.
Agreed.
I can't do any actions if I'm trying to gag, to be honest. So, understandable.
That's true. Right, so stratagems. That we've got here, and apparently people in the chat, I won't name names because I don't want to give them the credit. They're telling me that I need to stop trying to make Plague Marines work, but I won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop is the important part. Mainly can't stop because I don't have any of the other models to paint. So,
it's true.
So I must.
This is why
continue
Twitch
to try.
is so important.
Thank you, Twitch. Thank you, Twitch, and everyone. Right, so Rotting Tide, 2 CP or 3 CP, Tom. Use this stratagem in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. Select a Terminus Est Assault Force Poxwalkers unit from your army that is below half strength and remove it from the battlefield. Or select a Terminus Est Assault Force Poxwalkers unit from your army that has been destroyed. Set it up that unit at its starting strength wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield edge, other than the enemy's battlefield edge, and more than 9 inches away from the enemy models. You can only use this stratagem once. If that unit has a starting strength of 10 or fewer models, it's 2 CP, otherwise it's 3 CP. So it's Tide of Traitors.
No, it's not quite that even, mate. It's Unstoppable Green Tide because you have to be under half.
Yeah, and also
we're an Orky channel. Yeah.
Also, we are an Orky channel. True. How dare we? But also the unit can be dead.
It's true.
You just get to
have
return.
To select a unit that's under half strength, right? Hold up.
So wait. Use the stratagem to reinforce.
You have to select a unit from your army, and if it's dead, it's not in your army now.
I don't know. I think you could do that. I think that makes sense.
We're being so pedantic today. I was pedantic on the Warlord Trait, and then here we are with this thing.
The clout. That's what we're here for, the clout. We are a narrative orc channel.
But
yeah, a Green Tide for Poxwalkers for 3 CP is pretty expensive.
Yeah. Although it's funny. You need to paint some more Poxwalkers, mate. You need to make sure you got enough.
I mean, it is nice. You could maybe trade off with a unit of Poxwalkers. So the Poxwalkers on the objective, they have to push the Poxwalkers off. You charge into them, and then you tide on the Poxwalkers to get something in the back of the board. Not bad.
Tell you what, mate. You could throw some Poxwalkers up, just a small unit of 10, but you can tide it and bring it on your opponent's backfield turns 4 onwards with Scramblers.
Yeah, let's go for that. But let's not. All right. So what? You don't seem to like the Rotting Tide. How dare you? Fine. I thought everyone thought Poxwalkers were good. I thought everyone thought Poxwalkers were good. What am I?
I never said it was bad, mate. What are you on about? I think you're implying what I thought, mate. You might be a bit right, though.
Right, okay. Next one is Unleash the Horde, that's
Yes.
2 CP, right? Use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Terminus Est Assault Force Poxwalkers unit from your army is selected to move, or in the fight phase when a Terminus Est Assault Force Poxwalkers unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of turn, add 3 inches to the move characteristic of that army, and each time those models pile in, they can move an additional 3 inches. 6-inch pile-in on Poxwalkers is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, there's a lot of Poxwalkery shit here, and it works well because you're Harbingers already. So I'm a big fan of a lot of this.
Yeah. Also, everyone obviously letting you know that Poxwalkers can't do actions.
Yeah, I know, that was kind of a joke. You can't do scramblers anyway. But yeah, good point.
But they can only do poops on objectives. This is all they can do. But I like that one.
They can do poops on objectives, that's true.
Additional 3-inch pile-in. As someone who's staring down the barrel... Listen, podcast bros. I hope you're well. And ladies, both of you. And Twitch watching live.
I mean,
as someone staring down the barrel of having to paint up 40 to 60 Poxwalkers for his competitive Death Guard army, I want other reasons to paint them and to give me motivated. So just give me this. Does that make sense? Like, where's my Mephitic Blight Hauler stratagems? That's my real question. I've got 7 of them, Tom, doing nothing.
You're not doing anything in this, mate, because you can't take vehicles in it.
No. All right. So Precedent Drop is a 2 CP stratagem. Do you want to tell us what it does?
Yeah, sure. So use this in your reinforcement step of your movement phase. So that's at the end of your movement phase. When you set up a Terminus Est Assault Force from your army on the battlefield using the Outbreak Assault rule, which is the deep strike thing we spoke about earlier, or you can just use Teleport Strike, basically when you deep strike down. You then select one contagion of nail ability that unit has, and at the end of the turn, the contagion range of that ability is 12 inches for that unit. So effectively, that just means you can hit other things with it. Now, it's not cumulative with other bonuses. So basically, you drop down outside 9 inches, you make your range 12, and you hit anything that you're just dropping down in front of with the contagion ability that you have. That is then obviously context dependent upon how useful your contagion ability is. If something's at the front in 9th edition, it probably means that you're happy to trade it. So I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. And it's also 2 more CP compared to the CP you've already spent dropping down in the first place. So it's expensive, and I don't know how useful it's going to be. So I don't know how often you see this. Maybe you see it turns 4 or 5 where you start to grind through your opponent a bit, and you can start to contagion up a couple of more useful things. But as you don't really have too much ranged weaponry in the Death Guard arsenal anyway, although also, as it says, you don't drop down turn 4 or 5 anyway, but you drop down turn 3 maybe. And then you hit it with the ranged weapons that you don't have, because if you are close enough to charge them, you don't need to be a 12-inch contagion range anyway, so I don't know how often you're going to see this.
I don't think you are, so agreed with you.
There we are. Carry on.
But good
Speaking of which,
is...
you could say, Rob, we have callous disregard for this stratagem.
We do, which is good. This is the name of the next stratagem.
Hey!
Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. You select one Bubonic Astartes Terminus Est Assault Force unit from your army that is eligible to shoot. Pew, pew, pew. Until the end of the turn, models in that unit can target enemy units within engagement range of friendly Poxwalkers or Plague Follower units from your army. However, each time a model in that unit makes an attack against an enemy unit with engagement range of a friendly Poxwalkers, you must subtract 1 from the hit roll, and if the hit roll is not successful, you end up shooting your Plague Followers or Poxwalkers instead. 2 CP, terrible stratagem.
Hey, mate, shoot Poxwalkers, get them down, then bring them off and do the scramblers that you can't do.
Do you know what? Reading through all of this, quite disappointed in this particular one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, you already have 86 rules, Rob, so they're kind of reaching at the bottom of the barrel to find you more ones. So, yeah, I don't think you'll see too much. Unlike the AdMech one, which I think actually has some flavour and might see some use, just because it's kind of cool. This one, not really, nah.
Could I say that Logan's idea is probably the best idea? That if you're losing, you could just spend 2 CP to just take your frustration out on your own Poxwalkers. Just be like, you fucking idiots!
Useless shit. Disgusting. I think, okay, mate, we're going to rescue it with the relics and the psychic powers, mate.
Oh,
That's
man.
what we're going to do.
Oh, no, because... wait, for what? For Terminus Est?
Yeah. You get Festa Discipline.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Festa Discipline. Right, yeah. It doesn't seem very good so far, this particular Army of Renown.
But we do have Gift of Infection, which is totally different to the Gift of Contagion.
Please,
of course.
tell me what it does.
Yeah. It's a malediction, which it describes it as having a name, which is very interesting because in 7th edition, you had definitions for psychic powers. Malediction, Blessing, Witchfire, which was like psychic shooting attacks. I can't remember the other two, but there are a bunch of names for different types of psychic power and then rules from in the core book. You've got those here, which is interesting to see. So Gift of Infection has a warp charge value of 7, and if manifested, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, and until the start of your next psychic phase, they have -1 toughness. This is not cumulative with other bonuses to being Death Guard.
Oh my god, they love dropping down the toughness. It's like their new thing. They're like,
they only do it once, despite how many ways they have to do it. You know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That sucks. Long Rot is a malediction, Tom. Cast of 7, and then you pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of this Psyker until the start of their next psychic phase. Ooh, okay, your next psychic phase. The unit cannot advance, whatever.
Good, that's good. Yeah.
Each time that unit is selected to charge, only eligible units within 6 inches can be selected for target charge. That's pretty cool.
That's really good, especially when you can't advance.
Exactly, and each time a charge roll is made for that unit, it cannot be re-rolled.
I like that. 18-inch range is normally a problem, but the problem is it's a problem because you like to get charged with that.
It's nice. Yeah. But like, fuck you, unit. All right, I really like that. Do you need to select one enemy with an Psycho? You don't need to draw line of sight to it either.
No.
Nice.
So you can just lob out a Repentia in the middle of a ruin.
Yeah.
They can only move 6 inches. They can't advance, and they can only charge 6 inches, which completely neuters a miracle dice. So we've got a threat range of 12. Oh look, they can't charge you. Hooray!
We're into this. Long Rot at 10+. You get Pernicious Dose is a blessing cast on a 7, and you pick a friendly unit within 6 inches until the start of the next psychic phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a plague weapon, you can re-roll the hit roll as opposed to just re-roll ones. It's pretty nice. Until the next psychic phase, each time a model makes a unit with a plague weapon. Is it even in combat? No, it's just any.
Yeah, pity plague weapons are, I don't know, probably going to either kill in melee anyway or are shit in shooting.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, wouldn't be too bad. Like, if you wanted to bang this on a thud gun, what's it called?
I forgot, mate. I know you can do the. Although can you do that if you can't have vehicles in your army?
Oh, you can't. Yeah, because it's not
yeah.
vehicle,
Only thing you can really do is take a plague marine brick and use all the stratagems to make them plague weapons on their bolters, and then do that.
I suppose you could do it on the 2d6 boy.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah.
Like, so that's pretty good. Like, auto hitting. So this is a Lord of Virulence, is what I'm talking about with his 2d6 flamer. Auto hitting and then rerolling to wound. It's pretty cool. But whatevs.
Noxious Discharge is what Rob did before the show started.
It is. What's it do? It's a Witchfire attack.
It's a Witchfire attack, and it has a 12-inch range, and it's manifested on a 6. And oh, for fuck's sake. All right, are you ready for some sheer power that's going to come out of this one, Rob?
Raw power.
If you cast it, the target unit suffers 1 mortal wound, and all units within 3 inches of that unit, excluding Nurgle units, take 1 mortal wound.
Okay, we can move on. Rotwind. Okay. Malediction, cast on a 7, and you pick an enemy unit within 18 inches. Until the start of the next psychic phase, each time a mod that unit makes an attack, reduce the armor penetration of that attack by 2.
That's good.
Wow. That's great,
like that.
To a minimum of AP 0. Well, it reduced it by 2. Ooh.
I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah. Each time a mod on that unit makes an attack, reduce. So if you picked like a multi-purpose unit that was like, let's say it had like, I don't know, like a gun, like a good gun and also a good combat attack, you'd be affecting it in both phases as well.
Mm-hmm. Especially, mate, if you're a demon prince flying around with these psychic powers.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. Apparently, I can't use a particular word for a collection of models.
It's okay, but what if Games Workshop uses the rule and the word, and then we quote them?
Yeah, it all works.
Yeah.
I like Rotwind and Lung Rot. Those are some psychic powers.
Yeah. Sit out a demon prince, fly around. In fact, what's the specific wording? Do you have to take all your powers from that tree if you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Okay,
but you can choose from both trees.
Yes, but you have to take either all from the first tree or all from this tree. So you can't take Rotwind and Miasma of Pestilence, for example.
No.
Okay.
But like a Mythic Blight, not a Mythic Blight Hauler, in no way. A Plaguecaster with Lung Rot and Rotwind is going to cause some mischief on the board. Like, anyway. But they're also fairly tough to cast. They cast on 7s, so not easy. Then you got Accelerated Entropy, which is the last psychic power in the Festa discipline, which is cast on a 7. You select an enemy model within 12 inches and visible. Both players then roll 1d6 and add the model's toughness characteristic. If your result is higher than your opponent's, the enemy suffers 3 mortal wounds. If your result is double your opponent's or more than double your opponent's, the enemy suffers d3 plus 3 mortal wounds instead. So no one's ever taken this psychic power. So
no, that's true. Yeah, we can ignore that.
We can forget about that forever and ever. See you later, Shugo. Loads of love. Thanks for tuning in. And then finally, Tom, do you want to take us through the relics?
Well, I mean, I can do. This
You're
one
not impressed with this at all, are you?
It's filthy senses, mate. Add plus 6-inch range to the psychic powers manifested by the bearer. If the psychic power specifies 2 ranges, like Noxious Discharge, add 6 inches to the first range specified. So you can make your Rotbringer or Rotwind 24-inch range. You can make your Lung Rot 24-inch range.
That's pretty
I quite
good.
like that one, mate. I quite like that one, especially when you're flying around as a Demon Prince, mate. Big fan. Alternatively, if you want to make him as big and beefy as you can, so make him that big, beefy brick character we were talking about earlier, you can take the Mark of the Terminus Est, which is +1 to your strength, and each time an attack is made against a bearer, you cannot reroll the wound roll. Another one of those, mate. Another one of those. And also, once per battle, when a saving throw is failed for the bearer, you can use... Hold up, wait, what?
When you say throws failed for the bearer...
Fuck's sake, that's so badly worded. That's so badly phrased. So, once per battle, you can turn a failed saving throw into a passed one.
Boo! Boo! I mean, it's not bad. Mark of the Terminus Est. I'll take that. And then you got Vomix. It's not bad. It's not bad. Like +1
Vomix is Virulent Blight.
Model equipped with a plague weapon only. During deployment, select 1 plague weapon the bearer is equipped with. That weapon gains the following ability. Each time the bearer shoots or fights after making its attacks, select 1 enemy unit that has lost any wounds as a result of attack made by this weapon. Then select 1 contagion of the Nurgle ability the bearer has. Till the end of the battle, the enemy unit is always considered to be within contagion range of this ability. It's quite cool, but I'm already in range with my plague weapon, and so like they're already dead, or I'm dead. So
I mean, also, the next one also sucks, not just because it's a weapon, but also it's called Canker. I'm not entirely... okay, let's move on. Rot Grip is the next one. Oh, it's a weapon again. Reaper of Miseries, it's a weapon again.
The Rot Grip's one that got featured on the community article, and it is the Strength ×3 one, which is the big goss.
Okay, it's got a big number. How does that manifest in my games?
Nothing, but you get to say it.
How strong is
he? Yeah, how strong is he? You'd be like,
rather than strength 8.
Well, yeah, be like, how strong is that Thunderhammer? Be like, well, actually, I know you're twice as strong, but my guy's actually 3 times as strong as normal. Like,
fun on it. Yeah,
that's worth talking about, I'd say. And then the Reaper of Misery is nothing. Who cares? And then the Raiment of the Atrophy. For the purpose of determining the contagion range of the model's contagion Nurgle ability, treat the current battle round number as 1 higher than it actually is. This is not cumulative with any other effects, so that's fine.
It's basically their stratagem for free. That's whatever. It is what it is.
So overall, that's the Terminus Est.
Yes.
What's your like TLDR takeaway vibe on it?
There's a couple of psychic powers I like. And there's a couple of relics I like, but I don't think it's worth dropping the ability to take vehicles and dropping the ability to take Mortarian's Anvil. You could probably do something with this. I'm sure you could. And run something that would do okay. But if you're looking to play competitive Death Guard as well as you can, I don't think this holds the candle to the currently existing build, or will have the ability to hold the candle to the existing build. So if that's your vibe, just go with what's currently out there. if running something unique is your vibe, there are things you can do here, specifically revolving around, I think, making a character just run around beat sticking and taking as many poxwalkers as you can, and just being as annoying as possible is possibly a route you could go down. And Typhus is already really useful in terms of his points cost when he's legally allowed in lists. But overall, it's not something that excites me. But I don't really play Death Guard. What do you think, Rob? Because you play both these factions, mate.
Metallica 1 seems more interesting to me. Both the Metallica sub-faction, also the Army of Renown, than the Death Guard one does. Because like it feels like Harbingers pushes you, obviously, to Poxwalkers anyway. And then this does nothing really to additionally add on to me wanting to play Poxwalkers. And all of the stratagems that it gives me for Poxwalkers are quite meh. But at the same time, like, how would we feel if they were really, really strong? Like, they don't they obviously take stuff away in you can't build your army a certain way, and they don't add loads. For Death Guard, you had a couple of cool psychic powers, which probably there won't be as many people ever running Terminus S, so when you did play against Death Guard, you could maybe catch some people out with some cool little tricks. Which I think
that's how you're going to make it work, because my army's so shit that no one knows what it does.
Well, no, because I don't think it makes your army... It definitely limits what you can take in your army, which is a fair point, right? And like you pretty much always will take a Plague Burst Crawler. You'll always take a Plague Burst Crawler in your army, so not being able to take a Plague Burst Crawler makes your army pretty much worse. Like, so I get it. But I also think that there is something to be said for playing an army that people aren't really expecting. And maybe the Poxwalkers might be a bit of a finesse unit that you could play around with a lot. Like, I imagine 3 bricks of 20, Typhus, and then trying to make them work. I'm not saying you're going to win tournaments all the time with it.
But you'll have a fun time with your
Horde. I don't even mean a fun time. I think there's some skill to learn there, is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Like, there's like, you could probably get really good with Poxwalkers and what they can do in the game. They're not unique. They're a bit like playing Necron Warriors and a bit like, with reanimations and stuff. They're not perfect, but you might be able to do some janky fun stuff. Like, for instance, I played with a Poxwalker unit. Just, when you slay a model and you put some Poxwalkers back in the unit. That's a thing, right?
Yeah, or you bring the entire unit back on a board edge for the bands. Or kill them all, otherwise I'm bringing them back again repeatedly. Yeah. And then take the scramblers.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying Poxwalkers can do loads. I'm not trying to say. Tom just asked what my opinion is, and I feel like if I had some Poxwalkers, or I'd done 60 or whatever, then I feel like I could maybe play some different games. Am I planning to use it to win tournaments? No. Am I going to a tournament where... Because sometimes I personally don't go to a tournament to I'm going to smash face. I'd like to try an interesting army out. I think 40k and Age of Sigmar and tabletop gaming, you can develop a load of skills, and you sometimes often develop those skills by playing stuff that's a bit meh. Thanks Will Dockerall for donating £6.69 to the show, taking us to a holy number of £296.69. Thanks, Will. That's really appreciated. So, overall, Tom, I don't hate any of them. My question back to you, is, and they probably are a bit of a waste of time, maybe. I guess my question to you is, how do you feel at the power level they've been put in? Do you feel that the fact that they aren't you can win tournaments with this level power, a good thing or a bad thing?
I think the AdMech one is a good thing, because I think you'll see it, but I don't know if it's drastically increase the power level. I think it's entirely possible, but it could, but I don't think it will. The Death Guard one, it's just gone into my mind bin of things I don't have to remember or learn, apart from a couple of psychic powers. And even then, if I see an enemy army list and it has written on it these psychic powers, I'll just ask what they do. And then, I've learned that within about 30 seconds. It's not particularly difficult or engaging, whereas the AdMech one's a little bit more interesting. It is worth mentioning that I don't think we're covering the Drukhari ones today, just because I haven't had a chance to read the new book, and therefore I can't appreciate the context in which these new stratagems, relics, and warlord traits and what have you fit in. However,
we're both aware that both the Drukhari book and also the Drukhari stuff inside this is stonk.
It is stonk.
The stonks are huge. So really happy for our pointy-eared dark-kin brothers in that situation. Tom, any questions for Tom in the chat? I'm just going to go quickly fill my hydration bottle up because I'm just quite thirsty. So if anyone's got any questions for Tom for a moment, just before we go through the knights, ask him a question. Make it really tense.
I might as well just go on about the. I can elaborate on the Castellan robots a bit more, to be honest, because I think Castellan robots have a place in terms of they do hose down whatever they're in combat with or whatever they can see, right? I think my problem with them is in dense boards, which is what I'm playing on a lot at the minute with WTC, it makes it really, really hard for you to actually utilize them fully, because if you walk towards the center, it's very easy to get into combat with them, knock a couple out, and then they might shoot you, and then, you can then shoot other targets, but again, you're still not able to move, because if you do, you have to fall out, and then you can control what they're able to shoot with again, right? So I'm not a massive fan of the Castellan robots. I still think that they do have innate power. It's just within the context of the boards that I'm playing on at the minute. I don't really rate them. Also, if you then take them in, put them in an environment where they would thrive, which is a board with very little terrain on it, you might as well just take some kind of Cataphron brick as well. Take it with this new army of renown, and then just sit there and just shoot people off the board for the entire game, at which point it's then more efficient to then just take those Cataphron breaches. Now, the robots are cool, and if you want to run the robots, obviously you go for it. It's your hobby, and I never expect anyone to necessarily agree with me, but I will still say what I think is correct, even if it's wrong. You could go 4-1 with World Eaters, I reckon. Yeah, you probably could. In fact, if you go to certain tournaments in certain countries, you could probably go 5-0 with them, because you just can do. Do you think we'll see Drukhari in the WTC now? I think teams would be mental to not put them in the top 8 at the minute. So yes, Winner Stays On is 100% correct. 100%. Tom, is there a Tyranid list with with running without Demacarons? Yes. So the polls, I think if you go back to, was it this week on the WTC Squadcast, or probably a week before, where we looked at the Polish list that Vladdy was running. And Vladdy was running a crap ton of Raveners and Tyranid Warriors, wasn't he? I think it was a week before. Now, I don't think it did very well, but the concept was there, and therefore I think you can do it without having to run that kind of Forge World bollocks. I think Tyranids are hamstrung and entirely reliant upon Forge World at the minute if you want to hit that top level, but that doesn't mean that you can't play them at a tournament and enjoy your time and be competitive without running different builds. Okay. What do you think about the using the Terminus Est with Hellbrute and Possessed? I haven't looked at it properly. Possessed, I know have a lot of unique rules. I think that could be good, 100%. Dropping 9 inches down with all of them, you're not going to remove all of those, especially on heavy boards. That could be very, very strong. The Hellbrute, I'm never particularly hot on, just because I think that it's too easy to shoehorn it, and it's too easy to deal with. Especially because if you're dropping it down where it's out of line of sight, then you're also dropping it down where you've now got to run around the side of a building, although it can pin down certain areas. It does, though, force your opponent to charge certain things in that are scary to you. So let's say I had a unit Repentia. Well, I'm not going to deal with it with Retributors because I can't get line of sight on you. So I have to lob a Repentia in, and now I'm trading my Repentia for a Hellbrute, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Hellbrute vehicle, okay. Anybody have a link to the WTC list? So the WTC list normally gets submitted in late June for the WTC. The list that we're referring to are the Greek Hammer team tournament lists. If you join the Greek Hammer Discord, it is floating around, but I can't quite hold up. I don't know if I have admin privileges to invite people, but I think if you go to WTC Squadcast, you can find the list docs on the descriptions, and that will allow you to have a look at some of these lists, including Pete. You can look for, there you go, spot on. Oh no, that's a different one, Sag. Never mind. Go to the WTC Squadcast podcast page. You can go in the descriptions of the podcast themselves. Specifically, if you go to one with a Polish in it with Typhus, you can look at their list and you'll be able to find Pete that specific Tyranid list that I referenced. But if you want to find some more, there you go. In the chat. When it stays on, just blast it in the chat. He's on it. Thank you very much, buddy. And you can go for all those. So these are the second round lists. So these are the lists between rounds 3, 4, and 5. So they're not including lists between rounds 1 and 2, because at the end of round 2, you were able to change your list. I think that's what the Poles did with their Tyranid list. I think that they only had the Raven list for rounds 1 and 2, so you probably still need to go to the WTC Squadcast podcast page specifically for that list. But for the current lists that all the teams are running, check that one out. That's really useful.
All right. Should we crack on?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
We've only got the one left, the Free Blades.
We have Free Blades. Oh, right. It's back up here. Yeah. There we go.
So, Free Blades, because we're not doing Drukhari today.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, the Free Blade Lance is the Army of Renown. There are some restrictions, though. All units in your army must be free blades. We probably could just move on from here. But when determining which qualities and burdens each free blade lance must model in your army has, they cannot have a quality or burden that another free blade lance model in your army has until all other qualities or burdens have been gone. So those are the restrictions, Tom. Benefits. Yep. All units in your army gain the free blade lance keyword. You have access to the free blade lance Warlord Trait, relic and stratagem. Every free blade lance model in your army can have a qualities and burdens rather than just one free blade per detachment. And free blade lance characters in your army gain the legendary knight ability.
So they're all legendary because they're all characters.
Yeah, they're all characters. Add one to the leadership characteristic of this model. Okay. And when giving qualities and burdens to this model, you can use the following method instead of the method presented in the Codex. Select 2 from the quality table and select 1 from the burden table.
Yeah, and so it's the same as free blades in the current night book.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Remember that when determining qualities and burdens each free blade lance in your army has, they cannot have a quality and burden that another free blade lance model in your army has. Okay, you got any thoughts on that initially, Tom?
It's the same as normal, so nothing has changed as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, right, so... Okay, next up.
Sorry. You're right, mate. No, you're fine. Warlord traits. So the quality and burden sections, I believe, are still in the main codex, right? So I don't really think there's too much of a change there, is there really? Apart from the well, I'm trying to find out what the legendary knight thing is. I'm having a think around my photographic memory and I can't find it. What's a legendary knight? Oh, it's just you take the quality of the burdens which you were previously taking anyway. What the hell? So what's changed?
I think there has been a change. I think previously, Tom, you take one. Don't you get one burden for one quality? And
Maybe
now it's 2 for 1, and now it's 2 for 1.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's fair.
Is what
you could pick 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Normally you would roll 2 and still take.
Or you either roll 2 or you pick 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So picking 2 is way better.
Okay. Fine.
So then, please continue. There's a great question from Brian Sporillo in the chat. Some hot goss I did not know.
No, I didn't know it either. So should we read it out? No. Well, apparently the Art of War is leaving Frontline Gaming, which makes sense. I don't see what Frontline Gaming is actually providing for them now, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of doing their own thing anyway. So them being separate kind of makes sense.
Maybe because also Frontline Gaming has been more very right. But I mean,
we don't want to encourage competitive play, mate. That's unacceptable. Competitive play.
I'm not going to be one of those talking heads talking about salacious rumours that Games Workshop have bought the ITC.
Well, I'm just sat here.
I'm not commenting on that salacious rumour.
How dare you?
Hey, Tom Wilbrook.
Evil. Okay.
Please continue.
Okay, so Warlord traits. If a free blade lance character model is your Warlord, then you can have the Warlord trait below instead of one from another source. So if I'm just looking at the top section, if I'm taking somewhere where I'm going to be taking lots of free blade knights, that's probably going to be like Armigers and what have you, where you probably want to take one of the custom traits from Psychic Awakening right now, assuming that hasn't been phased out. So realistically, I still think that's better than taking free blades. Now, what could swing it is you don't really have too many useful Warlord traits. So let's see if Echoes from the Past swings it back for me. This Warlord trait gains and benefits from one household tradition, selected from those described in Codex Imperial Knights, so not Psychic Awakening, even though they are free blade. Write down this tradition on your army roster or crusade card when this Warlord trait is selected. That's not good for Armigers, but maybe it's good for... Hold up. Okay. So you benefit from the household tradition, which is the standard rules you get, like the AdMech Dogma. Yep. But you don't get the keyword, so you can't use the stratagems. Mm-hmm. So it's the opposite of the AdMech thing.
Yeah.
In terms of, the AdMech you can use the stratagems, but you don't get the Dogma. This you get the Dogma, but you can't use the stratagems. Not a fan of that. That doesn't work for me. Relic. If your army is led by a free blade lance warlord, you can, when mustering your army, give the following heirloom of the Noble Houses relic to a free blade lance character model from your army, instead of one from another source.
The Bringer of Justice.
The Bringer of Justice. Named characters cannot be given this relic. There is one named character and no one ever takes it. It's a weapon. So it's the model is equipped with a Reaper chainsword only. So I believe that's only for the Gallants and Wardens have it, right? Or do they have the Fist?
Gallants have, I don't know.
Gallants definitely have a sword and a fist, right? So I think it's probably Gallants. So models equipped with Reaper sword only can have 2 modes: the Strike, which is strength 2, AP -4, damage 6, and Sweep, which is strength user, so strength 8, AP -3, damage 2, but you take 2 hit rolls instead of 1. Not a massive fan of this, I'm going to be honest, because I don't think the Strike is particularly different to the normal version. And the Sweep variant, just use your feet, brother. Like, just use your feet.
Stomp, stomp, stomp. That's what knights are for.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Stomp. Yeah.
Especially when you're a Gallant.
There's nothing that you're trying to do that big flat 6 damage to.
Yeah, it's just a middle track that you never take. Yeah.
Some stratagems. Brothers and sisters in burden.
I didn't realise. Yeah, that's very progressive.
Very progressive. Well done, Knight household. So progressive and proud.
I'm glad you've clarified what's behind that genital plate that they have in between their legs.
Yeah. So 1 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your turn. Select 1 Free Blade Lance character model from your army. All friendly Free Blade Lance characters in 6 inches do not have to test for any burdens they have this turn. That's
cool.
Useful.
That is, for 1 CP, that's very useful. I'm a big fan.
Very useful. Strength from Exile is 1 CP or 2 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Free Blade Lance model from your army is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase when it's chosen to shoot. To fight, sorry. Until the end of the phase, while that model is more than 12 inches away from any friendly models, each time it makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. If that model is in a Caster's class or Dominus class model, this stratagem costs 2 CP, otherwise it costs 1 CP.
Yeah, just Gallant, launch, go, boom.
Yeah. But it's only reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1.
Yeah, but you always hit on 2s anyway, because you're a Gallant. Especially if you're casting Machine Spirit Resurgent, which allows you to act on top bracket, because Gallants hit on melee and on 2s, remember? And if you're strength 8, you're ruining most of the time on 2s anyway, so you're getting a lot of rerolls there, so there's a good chance you're going to be getting 15 wounds at D3 damage AP -2 with your feet.
Okay. Yeah, alright. Yeah, it's not bad. Deeds of Legend is a CP. Uses
These are all very cheap, aren't they?
Most of the stratagems in 9th edition are very cheap. Like, they're all like 1-2 CP. There's like,
apart from the Death Guard ones that were awful that we went through a minute ago, but apart from them, we don't care about those. They're already out of my head.
Yeah, those are some weird, expensive Poxwalker ones. But like, I mean, generally in the codexes, most stratagems are quite cheap. Like, the power of stratagems has come down, in my opinion, quite a bit. But like, they're still useful. Don't get me wrong. They're still good. Yeah, but they're not what they were, right?
We're halfway to universal special rules, like I want. That's what.
Yeah, very close. We're very close.
Come on. Take me all the way back to hit and run, plug and play into your fucking doggo star. That's what we want to see.
Deeds of Legend, 1 CP. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Free Blade Lancer model from your army destroys an enemy vehicle or monster. That model gains 1 quality of your choice for the rest of the battle. This must be a quality that model does not already have, and cannot be a quality that another Free Blade Lancer in your army already has. If you select the Indomitable quality and that model has lost any wounds, it regains 1 lost wound. You can only use the stratagem once. Fine. Whatever. No one took Free Blades anyway. This is already wasting everyone's time, but we will continue. And then Favored Knight, which is 2 CP. Use this stratagem before the battle. When you are mustering your army, select one of the Free Blade Lance characters model from your army that has 1 heirloom of the Noble House's relic. That model can have a 2nd heirloom of the Noble House's relic, and that relic... Oh, Tom's gone. Each relic in your army must be unique. You can only use the stratagem once. Okay.
Sorry, Rob. While you were reading out useless stratagems, I went to go and find my Knights book so I could see what difference there were for House Raven. And then I got T dropped off. So now I'm still trying to find my Knights book because I am blind.
Oh, buddy.
It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Wait,
Games Workshop strat call now affecting Forgeworld. Is that a first, says Herminister? Could well be. No, is there not another version of them? No, I'm sure they have. They talk about the Acastus and Dominus class in the actual Knight Codex? The last Knight Codex? Or maybe in Psychic Awakening? They called out the Acastus class.
I think they might have done Psychic Awakening. I don't think I saw anything in the actual Knight Codex. But I can check for you now, Rob, because I'm about to compare and contrast House Raven with House Raven.
Yeah, all right. So just a quick tip. Let's go through House Raven, then we'll talk about the whole thing as a whole, shall we? So that was the Army of Renown. So then finally, the House Raven. sub-function, basically. Or
Yes, the
expansion.
supplement. Yes.
Supplemente. So, Warlord traits. So, you got Lord of the Trials. Each time an attack made by the Warlord is an unmodified hit roll of a 6, automatically wounds the target. Fine.
You didn't have an issue with wounding things most of the time, mate. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah. In Violet, each time this Warlord loses a wound as a result of a mortal wound on a d6 4+, that wound is not lost.
There's already a stratagem that does this for 5-ups. Now, this is slightly better, but it's also something you have to take all the time because you have to put it on your army list.
Yeah, so you don't like it.
You don't like
and then
it.
plus by Metallica, add 2 to the Warlord's wounds characteristic.
This is objectively better. Objectively better than number 2.
Yeah, this Warlord can be repaired by Metallica tech priest units as if it were a Metallica vehicle model.
I mean, you can sack this off, but the number of wounds, like, you're not going to be losing more than 2 wounds when you take a 4+. You're not going to be saving 2 more wounds by taking a 4+ mortal wound deny over a 5+ mortal wound deny.
No.
So you might as well just take the 2 wounds and then use the strat because you're nice.
Also the fact if you are souping it with Metallica, the fact that you're going to be able to heal some as well is
100%
is nice.
Yeah, like knights don't spend that much CP now because you're not Tyrannus, because Tyrannus got kicked in the balls by Nineford.
So it does mean I could soup in Metallica, right? Like a small detachment, like a patrol, intentionally just to babysit a big old knight and just heal him up.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty.
If you wanted to.
That's pretty baller.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not too bad. I think you could already. As if it were a Metallica vehicle model. Okay, so I think you could already do that, but I'm not entirely certain. Worth check anyway, though. The next one is Relentless Wrath, which is effectively a weapon, but it replaces a rapid-fire battle cannon. We don't have to talk about it too much. It's just a flat 3 damage battle cannon with Assault 2d6, so you can advance and fire it for the memes. The next one that you've got up is Metallican Eye. Each time a ranged attack made by the bearer is allocated to a vehicle or monster, you can improve the AP by 1. That's okay. I don't mind that, especially if you've got a Top Gun, a Storm Spear rocket pod, for example, where you can shoot out of line of sight. I kind of like that. But yeah, it's all right. Not too bad. And then I know you can already fancy fire it. I know, right? But anyway, Fury of the Keep is the next one. So that's a thermal cannon upgrade. I think they've just updated it, so it's now D6 plus 2, and it's AP minus 5. An AP characteristic nobody ever needed. So
no one cares about. No
one cares at all. That's
but
fine.
again, very much like Strength times 3, it lets someone be like, I'm actually AP 5, and they're like, cool kids.
Yeah,
all right.
And then finally, Spirit of the Colossi, which is whenever this bearer is selected to shoot a fight, you can reroll 1 hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll for the bearer. Damage roll is not too big because you've got flat damage a lot of the time anyway. Hit rolls and wound rolls are okay, but I don't know. It's whatever. It's fine. That's the relics anyway. And then we've just got the stratagems.
I'll read a couple out for you.
Of course, that's good.
I'll go for Hammer Blow, which is 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a House Raven model from your army that remains stationary this turn is selected to shoot. Till the end of that turn, the model cannot make a charge move. However, each time that model makes a ranged attack with a weapon, it has the blast ability. You may re-roll a hit roll of 1. If the target unit contains 6 or more models, when this unit was selected to shoot, you can re-roll the attack's hit roll instead. Also, point number 3 on this, if it's a Wednesday, you are able to actually take a CP off your opponent, and then also if it's somewhere between 3 and 5 p.m, they have to buy you a cup of tea.
Damn it. All the tournaments are played on my weekends. I guess this sucks now. Fuck.
Damn it!
Whatever.
And thankfully it sucked before that, so that's useful.
It's true. It did do that. Sounds like fucking up. Absolute state.
Yeah, that was awful. Honor the Inviolate. Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, sure, that's absolutely fine. So Honor Inviolate is 2/3 CP. So you use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a House Raven model from your army is selected to shoot. And until the end of a phase, if that model did not advance, so now it's penalizing you for advancing shooting, add 1 to the strength characteristic of ranged weapons that model is equipped with. If that model is a Castus or Dominus, this stratagem costs 3 CP. Otherwise, it costs 2 CP. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Acheron is is strength 7 on its flamer, right? Rather than strength 8. So there you go. That makes it strength 8, which is great for toughness thresholds for wounding foot models with a T4 value. It's very expensive, though.
It's very expensive. And very importantly, you're already not taking an Acheron.
How dare you? It's very cool.
I agree, it's very cool. Are you taking one?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a narrative events. I don't fuck. I need to play Crusade.
Of course. All right. Lockstep Advance is 1C3, 1CP or 3CP. Use this stratagem when you select a House Raven unit from your army to move in your movement phase. Until the end of the turn, that unit's move characteristic is halved, but each time this model shoots with a weapon that makes a random number of attacks, easy 2d6, when determining the number of attacks it makes with that weapon, roll 1 additional dice and discard 1 of the dice.
There you
If
go,
that model...
Sorry, finish it.
Don't you dare mention an Acheron. If this model is shut up. If this model is an Acastus class or Dominus class model, the stratagem costs 3 CP instead of it. So I basically have to spend more CP because it's from Forge World.
Hey, you take your overpriced fucking Acheron. You put 3 CP on it to make it have an extra D6, discarding the lowest to fire its fucking flavor that you have to then move half distance for. And then you spend another 3 CP to give it +1 strength. You can literally pour 6 CP into doing fuck all with this flavor.
all the while, the other guy has got like 20 Poxwalkers fighting Unite, and he's shooting his own Poxwalkers in frustration.
That's when he vects it with the old Vect or the Gene Stealer cult one, and makes you spend all the CP anyway.
Anyway, there are some good multi D6 weapons available tonight's wholesale, right? The plasma gun, the Inferno gun, and all those other things. Datcon pointing out, combined with Cold Eradication, Castellan roll 2 extra and D6 and discard the 2 lowest, so you can get
you can pour 4 CP into it. Nice.
Well, you can, but you can end up with like a very effective big boy.
Cool. So the Acheron is Erastus class, so it isn't quite as expensive as that. So it's just a House Raven model, and it's not an Acastus or a Dominus, which means you spend 1 CP for Lockstep Advance, and you spend 2 CP for Honor and Violet. So it's half the price. It's still overpriced.
Hey, Datcon pointing out that it's only going to cost us 6 CP in a Warlord Trait, but I'm in!
It's only 3 CP. It's even better value now, mate. Fucking beautiful. Next one is Crimson War, which has a very cool name. You use a stratagem in the fight phase for 2 CP when a melee attack is allocated to a House Raven character model from your army, and the saving throw is automatically a 6. So you auto pass 1 save for 2 CP.
Okay. That's...
auto
pass as opposed to... It has to be
it's the same as the Death Guard thing, right? I guess you just slow roll, and then if you've got 1 more dice to roll and you've got 1 wound, then you just pop this and say, hey, people. And just whack them. Be great.
Weird.
So, yeah, whatever. Do you want to do the next one, or should I do it?
Sure. Shadow's Reach, 2 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your opponent's movement phase. Select 1 House Raven model from your army, excluding an Armiger class model, until the end of the phase. Start your opponent's movement phase. End of the phase, enemy models that are considered to be within engagement range of that model, while they're within 3 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically, instead of 1 inch horizontally and 3 inches vertically. Until the end of the phase, enemy models are considered to be within engagement range of that model. If they're within 3 inches. Okay, so 3 inches instead of 1 inch. So use stratagem at the start of your opponent's movement phase. So basically, you can make it so that you create an area of effect around your model for 2 CP. Is that right? So the engagement range, instead of being 1 inch, counts as 3 inches. And basically, my opponent in their movement phase, they can't get within engagement range unless they charge. So I can effectively kind of block kind of where they go. Also means they're outside of 3 at the end.
Effectively, just increase the area with which you fight by 2 inches, because you're already fighting 5 inches vertically and 1 inch. Yeah, exactly. So it's just 2 inches wider for fighting, right?
Yes.
So I don't even know how this would work, to be honest. Okay. Okay. The next one is Colossi Eternal, which is 3 CP, so this is better be good. Use this stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Oh my. Select 1 House Raven model from your army, excluding an Armiger class model. Then select 2 other House Raven models that are within 3 inches of that model, so those can be Armigers. Until the end of the phase, while those 2 other models are within 3 inches of the first you selected, all 3 of those models gain a 4+ vulnerable save against those attacks. You can only use this stratagem once. So basically, it's a triple rotate ion shields.
Tom, lean back a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Just when you're in there, it sounds like a fishbowl. Sorry,
Okay.
carry on again.
So basically, it's a triple rotate iron shield. So the issue with rotate iron shields originally was that you do it on one guy, and then your opponent would just like attack all the other units you have, right? Whereas if I'm running my three Crusaders at you, like I like to do, I can run them, pop this for 3 CP, and then I get rotate iron shields to everybody, and now you've got no valid targets.
Just going back to the last stratagem being pointed out by Datcom and Pete in the chat, is let's say Tom, that you were within 2 inches, 2.5 inches of my knight with your model. Let's say, yeah. So I activate that stratagem that makes it so that my engagement range is now 3 inches. You're now technically locked in combat.
That's the only way you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. You move away, and then you're now counting as retreating, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but it's also one of those where often you see people take... Oh, no, because it's House Raven. So often you see people take the Heroic Intervention stratagem, or not stratagem, the sub-faction bonus for Knights from Psychic Awakening. So if you're within 3 inches, you just heroically intervene anyway, although this keeps you a little bit safer. And also, I don't know, it's okay, I guess, but it's a little bit niche and a little bit weird for me.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not something you would take for... I mean, there's nothing here I would take for any reason. But it's a cool stratagem. It'd be interesting to see that put in another codex somewhere.
Potentially.
Because you could catch someone out. You could catch someone out quite nicely with that, right? Or you could even move in your movement phase to intentionally set that up.
You'd also... It would mainly mean that your opponent just has to respect you, right? Or when you're in a game of fanning out already, it's just one of those useful things. And it also means that, because you use it just in your opponent, at the start of your opponent's movement phase, right? So now your opponent either has to fall out, which means that they can't advance, so it limits your opponent's movement, or they have to just tank it up.
Yeah, okay. All right, next one. Horrors at Bay. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy unit with engagement range of a House Raven model from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of that phase, only the models in that unit that are within engagement range of your House Raven model can make close combat attacks against it. E.g., models in that unit that are not in engagement range with this model that are within half an inch of a model within half an inch will be unable. Okay, so you can't fight from 2 ranks, basically.
Oh, right, okay, fine.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's like the Dark Angel thing.
Yeah. Okay, so use the stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy unit with engagement range of House Raven model from your army is selected to fight. So then the phase only the models that in that unit that are within engagement range. Yeah.
For 1 CP, that's solid.
That's interesting. At least it'd be quite good against Terminators because they wouldn't get as many attacks in straight off.
Yeah, it feels like they're changing the identity of House Raven a lot because this is a bolt-on. It's not a replacement for House Raven, right?
No,
but a lot of this
in
doesn't
addition
fit.
To
a lot of this doesn't fit with what I normally assume of House Raven, which is you take one knight, you give it all the buffs, you shoot stuff. Whereas a lot of this is kind of like more brawler-y, which fits with Knight, but I don't know if it fits for House Raven. I don't know. I'd have expected this for like Terran or something, but I don't know. The last one anyway is called Rolling Thunder, 1 CP. You use this stratagem in your charge phase after a House Raven model from your army, excluding an Omega, ends a charge move until the end of the turn while an enemy model is within 3 inches of this model. Each time that enemy model makes an attack, subtract what? 1 from the hit roll. So it's 1 CP, so -1 for 1 model. So basically, use it on enemy characters.
So no, use a stratagem in charge phase after a House Raven model from your army is ends charge move until the end of that turn. One enemy model because it's not just one model. It's not one.
It specifically says each time that enemy model makes an attack.
Oh, okay. So 1 CP, 1 enemy model
for 1 model. Yeah.
Boo.
So that's the one.
Boo.
Yeah, and a lot of the time they'll have Thunderhammers, so it's just like we've already got a -1. So.
All right. Okay. So that's so this is the additional stuff. I guess Datcom makes the point that this is just free extra rules if you're already running House Raven. Okay, so we haven't read the Drukhari one because, as discussed, we're going to read the Drukhari book and then talk about this in context with the Drukhari book. So that means that I think, and that's the end of it. So I guess the real question is, Tom, how do you feel having gone through these about them?
I think my favourite one's the Admech, because I think it adds you a lot more options that we'll actually see play. I feel like the House Raven one's very much more heroes and more tools, rather than here's a different way to play this army. And the Death Guard one, I feel weird about it straight after having read it straight after the book dropped. I think there's a couple of tools in there that you're just adding on again, but everything else is kind of like you're not really using it at all, to be honest.
Okay, all right, okay. Twitch chat, I'd love to know what your thoughts are as well. If I'm just going off feelings here, like, so it doesn't really feel very worth it. Like, considering I started the show being like, listen, more extra stuff is cool because you're able to make my arm, I'll be able to like specialize. But the Metallica stuff doesn't feel very specialized. The Harbinger Terminus S stuff doesn't feel like it specializes, like it doesn't make the Poxwalker stuff better or more specialized. Do you know what I mean? Like, it does give you some options, but none of those options seem particularly good. I think, like, I'm not saying that it even has to be strong, but ultimately I feel like it's like a lot of bumps and not a lot for it, if that makes sense. Like, they've done the work. I think that's what's really fascinating, is they've done the work, right? They've put the work in, they've put some stuff in there, they've like thought about the book, and they've actually they've given us options, but all those options are a bit meh, like, ultimately. And I think that that's really interesting, because I thought that they'd either be really strong or they'd be like super rubbish. And I don't think they're super rubbish, but I don't think they also... What they definitely don't do, in my opinion, is they don't make me hyper-specialise or change how I play armies in any particular way. And I'm actually a little bit disappointed, because I wasn't what I was expecting. I was kind of like quite excited about this.
But, I mean, I'm more pleased with it than I thought I would be going in, so I've kind of gone the opposite direction. But that might just be because of a hyper-pessimistic standard I came in on, right? So... I'm quite pleased with the Advent one. I think that's cool. The other two, I think, it's some options. It's whatever. But again, it's just a bloat thing. So
I didn't want them to be OP. Sorry, let me be really, really clear about what I wanted. What I wanted was different. I said this at the top of the show. I wanted different ways to play miniatures in my collection, I guess. And I guess, like you said, the Mechanicum one feels like that's the most viable way of doing that. Like, it's given me a lot more options. And I guess if you're really in love with the idea of free blades, kind of gives you like a free blade vibe as well, which is kind of cool.
I feel like you can already do that with the Psychic Awakening stuff that allows you to build your own custom detachment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then the Death Guard stuff feels maybe too prohibitive and too restrictive for it to be a thing. And maybe you don't get enough. I don't think you get enough. So I actually think it's a downgrade. Like, if you were to just go, like, you've got Harbingers, and then you've got worse Harbingers, which is weird from your upgrade, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I don't know if 100% I knew what I wanted out of this, but I don't think this is 100% what I wanted. Let me try and be clear so you people know. I wanted something that made, like, more variety, some fun little, like, janky strats, something that's quite unique. And I don't think this necessarily delivered it in some ways. Yeah, I guess.
Sounds good.
I'll see what the Twitch chat's saying. I missed the Death Guard chat, but I can't wait to use it. Zombie spawn and some Terminators sound fun, but 6 extra spells. .com, that's a good point. It gives you some options, like me and Tom talked about. The free blades is a lot micromanagement of qualities burdens when you already have plenty to consider, says Her Minister. Fair point. For Greenman, my only concern with them is that when they do add in extra free rules, they may just make those options the best choice by default, thus making a lot of options in the book redundant. I think that's also fair as well. And big shout out to Collaroo, who has done his Dreadclaw 2 to go. You got this. Tom, did you give me your thoughts, really? Your overall?
Yeah. I mean, I'm less... I was a bit worried coming into this. I'm less worried now. Because I don't feel like it's just a bunch of like daft shit or stuff that's really convoluted that I have to remember, but also that's also going to be popping up a lot. So I'm feeling kind of pleased with it personally, although I am a bit disappointed for the Death Guard players and for the House of Raven players.
I tell you what it's a nightmare for. Yeah. Like, it's a nightmare to code into Battlescribe. Like, it's a nightmare. Like, you know, like, mate, for you to put in, right, now I'm playing Terminus S, and the Battlescribe to be like, right, as soon as he puts a fucking vehicle in, this is getting that fucking exclamation mark of red. That's what it's getting. Yeah.
I just discovered what a bone worm was.
And I wouldn't even try and code in the Freeblade one. I'd be like, do you know what? I'm not bothering. Like, you can go to a tournament with an illegal list. That's your problem. There is no way the 40k app is ever going to have the design language for me to input my Freeblade army into it and it tell me that my list is wrong. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Zero chance.
Cool.
Zero chance.
Yeah, not going to happen. Got it sorted. Anything else, bud?
That's it, sir. So, end of the show. Have you got any shout-outs you'd like to make today?
I do. Right. 1 second. Let me just... Right. So I'd like to do a shout-out to Lutin, and the reason why is because I want to do a community spotlight on him, okay? Not because not because I'm a narcissistic grifter who wants to do a spotlight on him on my own channel so that I can get his audience to come and watch my shit, but because I think my 80-man audience hasn't heard about him, and I'd really like to shine a spotlight on him so my 80 people can really understand who this massive YouTuber is.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I agree.
Yeah.
Lutin09, you guys might not have heard of him. He's a smaller YouTuber who is very involved in the lore. Yeah, Hermanista, thank you for resubscribing. And as someone who, we're obviously a narrative channel, we would like, we try and bring up all of our narrative brothers and sisters. So, yeah, big shout to Lutin.
I think that was more of a shot at people who were doing community spotlights but had like 500 subscribers. And then saying, I want to shine a spotlight on this mega huge prick. And I'm like, yeah, man. I'm sure your audience have never heard of this guy. It's definitely not that you're trying to get him on to try and get some of his viewers onto your shit, is it, you lying cunt?
Wow! I don't know who I can't wait for you to tell me after the show who you're
I have no idea.
on.
I just scrolled from a YouTuber and I saw it. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, you narcissistic prick? Who you think you're fooling, you mad cunt? No, I mean that.
Okay. Wow. I did not know Tom was going anywhere with that, so that's fun. A bit of a side goss for whoever he was after. Scott B, thank you for resubscribing, you talented motherfucker. Oh, and Cuss12345, thank you also for
everyone loves it, mate. Everyone loves it.
No, everyone started subscribing at this part of the show.
Go.
Get him. Thank you. You're all great. 1 year. That's right, Scott B, you big talent. Okay, all right. I'm just going to shout out. Now I feel unprepared. I wish you'd have prepared me at the beginning of the show.
Massive content creator, mate.
Tom, I don't listen to other content creators.
Why? I just know it's you.
Ignorantly don't listen. Okay, so I'm not going to shout anyone. And you, Tom.
See, now that's normally my role, just to not.
I'm shouting out Nick. Miss him.
There you go.
Yeah, shout out Nick.
Imagine if neither of us had shouted someone out, mate. That would have been awful.
That would have been
because that would have been my precedent. We could have gone into that fully expecting no one to shout out. That
would have been awful. Or I might shout out Lancer Chris because he's always sending me pictures and I love it. So that's what I'm going to do. Hey Rambo Squirrel, what's going on? Tom just browsed Twitter for lewd models.
Any lewd models and centaur ladies. If any corrects and says who it should be for, that's nothing to do with me, mate. Okay, now.
Right, all right, I'm going. We're going. It's been a pleasure, and obviously there's the Drukhari one, which we know is stonks. I know. We don't give a fuck about the hype trains. Like, as long as everyone's happy, like, this is what the show's about. We'll do a raid. That's what we'll do, because that'll make people smile.
Well. Let's have a look and see what
I'm live again tomorrow. Me and Owen are going to be discussing the list for a TTS tournament that's happening this weekend. So do tune in for that. That's going to be fun. And then I got a fun couple of days lined up, to be honest. Terrain show on the 40k terrain. I will put some pictures up in the Discord. That's one of the things I will do. And let's do a raid. Tom, I'm going to let you choose. There are friends of the show, Glasshammer, who we could raid.
Good, but they're already doing fine by themselves. That'll be all right.
They are already doing fine by themselves.
Oh, but also they call it a night fight, which has rubbed me up the wrong way because that's our terminology.
Yeah, so they can.
No. Also, Manny's mate decided to use scramblers last week, and I still haven't forgiven him.
This is now the Rob and Tom rip on everyone else streaming show. So congratulations and welcome. There's the lovely Mohawk Miniatures and Jay, who's painted up a Mechanicum Riser guy. Big vote for me, but he's also doing really well, and he's got lots of people viewing. So Thursday hobby hangout with the hobby time at Healy's seemed like a cute little bunch. There's 15 people watching. Rich, Owen, Lewis, and John paint up some minis.
They all look the same as well.
Huh?
They don't all look the same.
Wait, they all do look the same. We haven't raided these guys before, have they?
Yeah, let's do it. It's great. Fuck it. Let's go.
Let's go, these guys. All right.
They've also got traditional art in their description, which I'm a big fan of.
Okay. All right, let's do that. This could be fun. Let's go raid these gentlemen and say hello. there's someone streaming a game of 40k, and they've only got 2 viewers, and it's super cute, and I kind of want to do that. Because they won't see it. Fuck it. We'll get to the other.
Yeah, they'll be too busy playing 40k.
Yeah.
We'll do these guys.
Right, we'll do these guys.
Thanks everyone. Put a lot of effort into their logo, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, can I thank everyone for tuning in? You're all brilliant, obviously. Love you tons. So thanks for doing that. Join us for the raid. Make sure you say some nice things to them. Make them happy. And thanks for tuning in. Tom's great. You're great. Talk to you soon.
You're
Have
great.
a nice day.